Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is Ash's brother Pokemon. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Clone Trooper 29, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 0. Death and Second Chances. White, nothing but white for as far as the eye can see. Eyes opening slowly, revealing to the bleak world the crystal blue they hid underneath, they looked around solemnly. They saw nothing but an empty, white realm. Nothing all around, just him. Breathing deeply, the boy relaxed in the nothingness that surrounded him. His name was Naruto Uzumaki, a 13-year-old boy with spiky, blonde hair, tan skin, whisker-like birthmarks on his face, and wore the brightest orange jumpsuit anyone would ever see. And right now, he had died, killed by the one person he considered a brother, the first person he ever made a bond with. A piercing strike through the heart, no chance of survival, not even with the amazing healing powers of the only single being to ever acknowledge him as Naruto Uzumaki, Kurama. He couldn't even hear the nine-tailed fox's voice anymore, just nothing. The mission was supposed to have been easy, yet it led to his untimely death. A squad made up of his friends and himself, tasked with retrieval of another comrade that went rogue, Sasuke Uchiha. But obstacles came between them and their target. That man that Sasuke was going to, his personal bodyguards interfered. The Sound Four and another that called himself Kimimaro. Shikamaru Nara, the newly promoted Chunin of the retrieval squad, fought against the only girl of the Sound Four, a genjutsu flute user by the name of Tayuya. Choji Akimichi, heavy hitter of the group, went up against an equally large man named Jirobo. Kiba Inuzuka, hothead tracker, went toe-to-toe with the weirdest two of the Sound Four, two brothers that were attached together in more ways than one, Sakan and Yukon. Niji Hyuga, eldest member of the group, went against the most experienced of the Sound Four, a multi-armed shinobi named Kidamaru. Finally, there was Kimimaro. He was by far the strongest of the Sound Ninjas, and Naruto went up against him, and was losing badly. But a comrade came to his rescue, Rock Lee. He interfered, and gave Naruto the opportunity to catch up with Sasuke, while he fought the bone user, Kimimaro. And then the confrontation came. Sasuke Uchiha, the last loyal Uchiha that went rogue, and was heading towards Konoha's second biggest traitor, Orochimaru of the Sannin. It should have been touch and go by then, but Sasuke wasn't making it easy. He refused to simply return and fought. He fought to kill, that is. Not holding his punches and kicks, setting Naruto on fire, driving the blonde headfirst into solid rock. He was seriously out to kill the young Uzumaki, and for what reason? For power, he was willing to kill his friend, for power. The Uchiha even admitted that Naruto was his friend, and that was the whole reason he wanted to kill him. Then things escalated. Kurama, the nine-tailed fox that was sealed inside Naruto, gave the blonde power to fight against the monster that Sasuke had become. The cursed seal of heaven, the thing which was bitten and sealed by that snake bastard Orochimaru, had mutated Sasuke into what could only be described as a literal vampire-like creature. Huge hand-like wings bursting from his back, his skin tone seeming to die and darkened, developing sharp claws and fangs, it was the whole package. And what could Naruto do? Kurama gave as much of his chakra as the Uzumaki could handle, entering a state known as awakened Jinchuriki. Kurama's chakra bubbled around Naruto, taking the shape of a large single-tailed fox-like shroud. His strength increased, his speed doubled, his movements radical and unpredictable. But apparently it wasn't enough. Blue eyes opened once more in the empty white abyss he laid, or was it floated? He wasn't sure, he couldn't feel anything. His mind continuously playing back the last memories before the cold hand of death took him away. He was mildly thankful, though, that his life had ended with just a brief sharp pain to his chest, before he was taken. That was the point of death for Naruto. Sasuke's technique, the Chidori, which was designed specifically for assassination, taking his life in a flash of lightning. Tilting his head as much as he could, his body stiff, Naruto looked left, saw white. He looked right, saw white. Looking back up, again white. Where was this? Was this hell? He wasn't very religious, considering how crappy his life had been, and the fact the priests and nuns would always kick him away if he got too close to the Church of the Hidden Leaf. But he knew what hell was. It was always described as a place where all sinners went, a place where every sinner was given their own personal version of what hell was for them. This must have been his. Nothing, loneliness, absolute emptiness. Sighing loudly, Naruto closed his eyes in resignation. I guess even in death, I'm haunted by loneliness. Kami must really hate me. Now I wouldn't say that, Naruto-kun, a soft voice spoke above him. Eyes snapping open, he stared at a face that looked down from above, freezing instantly in shock as he recognized whose face he was looking at. If you sleep out here, you'll catch a cold. The long black-haired female giggled, a light pink kimono sleeve covering her mouth as she did so. It can't be without noticing, Naruto sat up, never taking his eyes off the woman standing next to him. The woman, who didn't look far from his age but was clearly older than he was, stood silently with a smile. Haku, the now named Haku, smiled brightly at him, before reaching down. Slowly grabbing Haku's offered hand, actually feeling her warm hands, Naruto let the obviously stronger woman help him back to his feet. Once on his feet, Haku seemingly dusted off the dirt around Naruto's ruined jumpsuit, before bouncing back in front of the still stunned boy. Bringing a hand up to Naruto's chin, she snapped the boy's mouth shut with a laugh. Careful, a bird might try to build a nest inside your mouth. "Bibi, but how?" Naruto stammered, before turning a shade of red. He had never stammered before. Haku went into a thoughtful pose, finger on chin as she looked up. Now that's a rather tricky question to answer. She smiled brightly as if solving a problem. "Just think of me as your guardian angel, Naruto-kun." Haku's smile quickly left though as she gazed at the large hole still on Naruto's jumpsuit. "But you weren't meant to die, not according to Kami-sama." "Huh!" was the short, elegant response from the knuckle-headed ninja. His mind was still reeling at seeing Haku once more, but now she brought up Kami. Shaking his head, in a feeble attempt to get his mind working again, he looked at Haku as he pointed. "Hold it, what's going on? Isn't this hell, and why are you here, Haku? I thought you'd be in heaven, not my hell?" Haku looked momentarily stunned, but quickly began laughing. "Hell, oh. Good one, sorry Naruto-kun, but you're not in hell." This spreading her arms around, showcasing the empty white realm they stood in. Place is what you would call the realm between life and death. To put it simply, it's here where you are either taken to heaven, hell, or she trailed off, leaving the sentence hanging. "Or what?" Naruto asked, completely confused, but listening to Haku's explanation. Haku shrugged. "Not sure, you'd have to ask Kami-sama for that." Twirling around, hands joined together behind her back, Haku started skipping forwards. A few skips ahead, she looked back at the still standing blonde. "You coming, Naruto-kun?" Turning back without waiting for an answer, she continued her walk through the white abyss. Naruto snapped out of his stunned silence, and raced to catch up with his first true friend. Break. For what seemed like hours to Naruto now, though it wasn't clear with how empty this place was, he kept on walking beside his guardian angel, as Haku called herself. He had thought about how she was now. She seemed happy, much happier than she'd been when he first met her. And that was another thing. Haku was indeed female, she had lied to him. But he kept his mouth quiet about that. So Naruto's attention snapped to her voice, listening intently as Haku spoke, and effectively breaking the uncomfortable silence that went on for a long while. "How'd you die?" Hearing a sad sigh, Haku looked back, stopping when she noticed that Naruto had done so as well. She winced as she thought the question might have been too premature at this time. "Sorry, I didn't mean anything by that, Naruto-kun. It's okay if you don't want to answer it." Hanging his head, Naruto rubbed his hand through his hair. No, he assured her, "It's okay, you were just curious." He seemed to try and collect himself at this point. "You remember Sasuke?" he asked, getting a slow nod in response. "Yeah? Well, he went rogue, and I was part of the squad that was sent to bring him back. Only, he didn't want to go back, and he fought. He fought to kill, while I fought to simply knock him out. And well, remember that technique Kakashi-sensei used on Zabuza that killed me?" "Yes, I remember," Haku finished Naruto off, her voice devoid of emotion as memories of her death resurfaced. It was still a touchy subject for her. She had died seconds later, so she had the misfortune to experience the full pain that came with the technique, and it hurt a lot. "Kakashi-sensei, he taught Sasuke that technique." Haku's eyes widened, "and he used it on me, several times in fact. 3 times if I remember, but as they say, third time's the charm. He pierced me, then he shrugged helplessly. I woke up here. I felt just a sharp pain, then nothing." As he finished, he found himself suddenly enveloped in a hug from Haku. Not knowing what to do, Naruto slowly hugged Haku back. The only one to have ever showed compassion like this was I am. The two stayed like this for several seconds, only to be broken by Haku. She pushed herself away, and grabbed Naruto's hand with her own. "I think it's time, Naruto-kun," she said softly, holding onto Naruto's hand with both of hers now. Naruto looked at her strangely, not understanding her comment. "Time for what?" She looked back to his face, a cascade of tears running down her face as she smiled gently. "Time to meet Kami-sama. She's been waiting for you, Naruto-kun, and so has someone else very important to you," she said cryptically. Before the blonde could respond, Haku began moving again, dragging the boy with her. As Naruto regained his footing, he looked forward to notice a light slowly appearing. His eyes widened as Haku continued walking towards the light, something he never in his life thought he'd do. As the light enveloped them, Naruto felt Haku's hands leaving his. The light was so intense that he had to close and cover his eyes with his arms, but then something happened. He could hear sounds. The rushing of water, the singing of birds, he could feel the wind gently caressing his skin. But what he didn't hear was Haku's last words, saying her farewells to him. Removing his arms that he used for cover, he opened his eyes to see paradise. Gasping loudly, he took a few steps forward, while looking all around him. He was in the middle of a lush, flower-filled grassland, with a river nearby, a forest surrounding him, and a beautiful blue sky high above. It looked almost like his secret place back at Konohagakure, and a place he always went to for peace and quiet. But there was one strange feature added though. There was a large hill nearby, with what looked like the ruins of an old large church on top of it. The one in the hidden leaf was much smaller than this one, so it had to be one of those cathedrals he always heard about. He had always wanted to see one, but the Cathedral of the Land of Fire was located in the capital, so he couldn't go. The building looked like it was made of refined, smooth white marble stone, and finely crafted with amazing details and sculptures around it. A beautiful garden was spread all around it, and at the front were giant doors that led inside, only that there were no doors. Despite the strangeness of all this, Naruto couldn't help but smile. If this was heaven, he knew why there were no doors, as he heard a priest once proclaim, God's door is always open for his children. Magnificent, isn't it, Naruto-kun? A new voice spoke behind him. Spinning around, he came face to face with a stunning violet-eyed woman wearing a sleeveless white blouse under a loose-fitting dress, with long fiery red hair with strands that framed both sides of her face, and a black clip that parted her hair to the left. Why? Blinking as he looked at the strange woman, he looked around frantically, looking for someone that wasn't there anymore. Wait, where's Haku-chan? She said that Kami-sama wanted to meet. He stopped mid-sentence, before slowly looking back at the new arrival. You wouldn't happen to be Kami-sama, would you? He asked with a nervous gulp. The woman looked momentarily surprised, before she snorted, which developed into full-blown laughter. Oh, that's a good one. That's sweet of you, but I'm not, her laughing dying down slowly. Oh, I haven't laughed that much in years. Having her laughter under control, she looked back at Naruto with warm eyes, tears nearly spilling as she gazed at the still young boy in front of her. She chalked back a sob. You don't know how long, sob, I've wanted to do this, Naruto-kun. Huh, do what? He asked, only to get his answer as the woman knelt and hugged him tightly. He could feel the tears she let pour down onto his shoulders, her sobbing shaking her body, but never once loosening her hold around him. Am I missing something? I'm sorry, sob, I'm so sorry, the woman continued sobbing loudly. Seeing as she wasn't going to be letting go anytime soon, Naruto hesitatively brought his arms back and hugged her, hoping it would help calm her down. Being dead was more confusing than he thought, since he didn't know what to do in these kinds of situations. It took some time, but the woman finally calmed down. Slowly, she grabbed Naruto by the shoulders and pushed back gently to have a look at him. A brilliant smile came to her face, almost face-splitting. It made Naruto's eyes widen a bit on how much that looked similar to his own. You certainly grew up. I've never been more proud to be your mother. Naruto's eyes nearly bulged out of his head as she said that, and my mother. The woman nodded, as if she had a sheepish grin on her face. Scratching behind her head, she stood up. Yep. Name's Kushina Uzumaki, your kick-ass mother and second Jinchuriki to the fur ball, Nine Tails, Databane. She pumped her first into the air, before deflating slightly at her quirk showing. Naruto's jaw dropped. Holy, she is my tears began to gather in his eyes. You really are, Mom? As his tears fell, Kushina knelt back down and held her arms opened. Not needing an invitation, he flung himself and hugged his mother tightly. His mother, he couldn't believe it. Well, if he thought about it, he could, since he always thought and believed his parents were dead, and if he was in heaven then so would they. He blinked in confusion. Wait, pulling back, he looked around, as Kushina stared at him confused. If you're here, then where's Dad? Kushina's smile faltered. Looking anywhere but her son, she didn't know how to tell him. Sweetie, your father, she hesitated, he isn't here. He can't enter this realm. Huh? Naruto blinked in confusion. His face fell. Why? Kushina opened her mouth to answer as best she could, but someone beat her to the punch. It's because he sold his soul to Shinigami Dano. He happens to be quite strict when it comes to the services he performs when summoned into the living realm. Kushina turned to face the speaker, a sad smile on her face, while Naruto looked, and promptly dropped his jaw. Standing by the forest edge was a woman whose beauty could easily be described as divine. With a skin tone that seemed to shine with an ethereal white, she had aqua-colored eyes and hair that reached to her mid-back, decorated with numerous leaves of autumn season colors. She wore a white silk gown, with detached sleeves, and was adorned with a unique silver chainmail breastplate, which was decorated with 3 sized sapphire-like gems. One was located across the torso just under her breasts, one around her neck, and the last one, which was also the smallest, was located between the larger two. The only thing out of place about this radiant beauty was that she wore no shoes, yet her bare feet against the grass seemed to meld with one another perfectly. As Naruto was lost in this person's beauty, Kushina chuckled before standing to face their new guest. "Greetings, Kami-sama," that immediately snapped Naruto's hanging jaw shut. Here in front of him was Kami, the apparent goddess of all creation. Kushina sighed. "Is it time to meet Arceus-sama?" With a gentle smile, Kami nodded. "He is ready to meet Naruto-kun now." Turning around, she made her way towards the cathedral upon the hill. Kushina looked behind, gently grabbing Naruto's arm, as she led her confused son. Kami didn't need to look behind her, but she knew that Kushina was having an internal conflict within herself. Naruto, though, was just puzzled, yet everything would be explained soon. As the group of 3 made their way towards the cathedral, Naruto took the time to really inspect his surroundings. With but a glance, he saw how the area seemed to be growing more lush as they drew closer towards the cathedral. It was almost like whatever, or whoever, was there, was feeding and nurturing the area and growing. This brought up a certain question in the young Uzumaki's mind, one that was planted by Kami's words. Who was this Arceus? It didn't take long before they reached the cathedral. The distance Naruto had seen it from did the place no justice. It was huge. The sheer size of the entrance dwarfed them considerably. It was large enough to possibly fit Kurama's hand through it easily, and that was saying something, considering Kurama was extremely large in size. As they entered the ruins, Naruto's ears instantly listened on the soft hymn that filled the air. The sounds of people singing in an unknown language, yet the way they sung, it felt as if his soul was being soothed entirely. "Greetings, Lady Kami, Miss Kushina, and of course, you as well, young Naruto," a powerful male's voice greeted them, seeming to echo all around, but in fact was spoken inside their heads. Stepping further into the ruins, into what would have been the cathedral's halls, they found themselves at a place where sunlight shined through a hole in the ceiling. It was here that Naruto found the being that had greeted them, and his jaw promptly fell down once more. The being's body was colored white with a gray, vertically striated underside, the pattern of which had similar recurrences on the underside of its mane, tail, and face. The feet were tipped with golden hooves, the mane was quite long, jutting away from its head, and its face was gray, with green eyes and red pupils, and a green circular pattern below its eyes. There was also a streak of gold coloration on its head, and ears that pointed upward. Its neck was fairly long, with 2 pairs of extrusions to the sides, and a flap-like feature on the neck's underside that was colored white. There was also a golden cross-like wheel attached to its body by its abdomen. Even from a distance, Naruto could tell that the wheel had 4 jewels attached to it. The pattern of striated gray of the underbelly resumed past its waist, the underside of the limbs also being gray in coloration, and with extrusions at the tops of the legs. The tail was fairly like its mane in shape and coloration. Overall, this mighty creature was massive in size and exuded an aura of power, grace, poise, wisdom, and kindness beyond anything Naruto had ever seen, felt, or sensed in his natural life. Kushina's giggling broke Naruto out of his stupor, while even Kami looked amused when she gazed at him. Turning back towards the mysterious beast, Kami stepped closer. "It seems you have made an impression upon Naruto-kun, Arceus Dano." The now revealed Arceus chuckled lightly in humor. "It appears so." His gaze swept between Naruto, who looked lost on how to act before 2 higher powers, to Kushina, who had a saddened expression upon her face. He finally looked towards Kami. "Did you explain everything to the youngling?" Completely destroying her image of an almighty deity, Kami crossed her arms under her breasts in a small pout. "No, I didn't. I was hoping Kushina-chan had told him, but she hasn't yet." Finding his courage, Naruto spoke out, gaining the attention of the 2 deities. "Explained what?" Kami and Arceus shared a look, before Kami nodded to him. Looking towards Naruto, "You were not meant to die yet, Naruto-kun," she said to the point. "You were meant for great things in your life, the one to bring peace in the war-torn world I had created. But you were killed, your life ended far before your time. For that I am sorry." Oh, Naruto's head hung at that. "Yeah, Haku-chan said the same thing." He blushed a little here, before coughing awkwardly. That I wasn't meant to die yet, I mean. She didn't tell me I would bring peace. Was I really destined to do that?" He looked up, but not towards Kami or Arceus, but rather towards Kushina, his mother. Kushina smiled softly. "Hi, you were my special little guy. It was a prophecy your father's sensei told us years ago. A child of prophecy, said to be destined to bring about a revolution throughout the lands. Either bringing peace or destruction, but I knew you would be the one. The day you were born, I just knew you'd be the one to bring the fighting to an end. That you'd be the world's savior here." Kushina's eyes started watering again. "I'm just sorry, you hadn't had the chance to live your full life." Naruto brought up a hand to hold his mother's. It's alright, Mom. At least with me gone, those people that were hunting me can't get Kurama any weight. Kurama. Looking towards Kami, with something akin to anger and panic in his eyes. Where's Kurama? Kushina's brief sorrow was forgotten, easily replaced by confusion at her son's question. Who are you talking about, sweetie? She asked. Who is this Kurama? Before Naruto could respond, Kami made an ah sound. Kurama, otherwise known as the nine-tailed demon fox. Kushina's eyes widened as her mouth gaped, while Naruto simply nodded. Kami hummed, mostly to herself, and thought, You wish to know what happened to Kurama, Naruto-kun? Yes, Kurama's my friend. He suffered enough. What happened to him? Naruto practically yelled in panic, not at all worried about himself, but mostly for his longtime friend. Kushina slapped the back of Naruto's head. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. That is no way to speak to Kami-sama. Kushina scolded her son, unintentionally revealing his full name. Kami raised a hand, silencing Kushina, her eyes still locked firmly with Naruto's. It was surprising for her that the boy dared to raise his voice against her, and held such hardened nerves that he'd lock eyes without flinching. You would have done great things indeed. Naruto-kun. Kami's words, softly spoken, stunned both Naruto and Kushina still. Giving the boy a gentle smile, you need not worry about Kurama. He is currently being processed by Arceus Dano here, for your future, Naruto-kun. It will be a while, but he will soon be ready to assist you where you will be sent. Huh, what do you mean by that? Naruto asked, looking puzzled. His gaze switching from Kami to Arceus and Kushina, before looking back at Kami. Where am I being sent? Excuse me, Kami-sama, Arceus-sama, why the nine tails? And son, why do you call him Kurama? Kushina questioned. She had been completely lost throughout this whole conversation. I believe I can answer that for you, Arceus spoke at last, gaining everyone's attention. He had stayed silent, mainly to observe the boy, and was pleased with what he saw. Looking towards the red-headed human, as Lady Kami had already mentioned, Kurama's soul is currently being processed into his new body, so that he may be of more help for your son where he'll be sent. His attention shifted towards Naruto. As for your question, youngling, as Lady Kami also mentioned, you are not meant to die. As such, you are being given a second chance at life, but not in the world of Lady Kami's creation, but in mine. Your death has secured that world's fate, I'm afraid. And we cannot, even if we wanted to, bring you back to life in a world where you had already died in. Standing up, Arceus stood on all fours, the sunlight glistening off his mane as he walked down from his resting place. Back to your concerns about Kurama. There is nothing to worry about. Kurama, or the Nine Tails as you know him as, was controlled throughout his life since his creation and released by the man you've known from legends as the Sage of Six Paths. And unlike what you've been told from stories, the tailed beasts loved the sage as if he was their father. And in a sense he was, as he created them by using some sort of ocular mutation, I believe it was. Arceus sighed sadly as he reached where the humans, and human-like deity, stood, but as I said, he has been controlled throughout his entire life for centuries. Him and his fellow siblings, one by one they fell under the greed of mankind. Kurama, the last to fall, being controlled by a vile man, with equally vile eyes. Used like a tool, only to be sealed off by the wood user, and into one of your kin, all because they feared Kurama's power. Kurama's hatred towards humans grew because of the actions your people treated him with. A smile came upon Arceus' face, that is, until it was your offspring's turn to carry him. Kami smiled as well, as the two deities looked towards Naruto. Said offspring merely pointed at himself and me? What exactly did I do? Even Kushina was confused by this. Everything she was hearing, she didn't know how to understand it. She'd had always been told the Nine Tails, or Kurama, was nothing but hate and destruction. But being told this now, by two deities, she could only wonder if things could have been different, if she merely talked to the fox. Kami chuckled softly. You are the first person, human or otherwise, to see Kurama as he is. Not as a tool, not as something to hate, not something to control, but as a living entity, that deserved the same rights as the rest of mankind. He respected you for that, which was why he always helped you in times of need. That is why we are preparing him for your journey ahead of you. Because even as you died, he never stopped pouring his powers throughout your body to try and save you. He even shed a tear, something he had never done since the death of his creator. So when the seal began its final process of sending the last half of Kurama to Shinigami Dano, Arceus Dano and I intervened and saved his soul, leaving his power to go and complete the contract that had been made with your father, when he sealed Kurama inside of you. He shall be waiting for you when you wake from this realm, and into Arceus Dano's world. Naruto's jaw promptly fell for a third time. The Yandame's my dad. And with that, Naruto fainted. This left the three remaining beings to sweat drop, while simultaneously thinking how that was the only thing Naruto had paid attention to. As Kushina rushed to help her son, Arceus chuckled at the scene. He is certainly an interesting one. Cammy sighed, watching as Kushina knelt and began trying to wake her son. As the mother fretted over her son, Cammy took a good long look at the boy. He would have changed so many lives, saved so many people for the better. Now the cycle of hate shall continue until I am able to find another pure soul to save my children, she muttered, Arceus being the only one to hear her. Arceus merely nodded solemnly. It is regrettable, and a shame for one to have died so young. But hopefully with his second chance, he will find the happiness he was so wrongfully denied. It really is a shame, Cammy said quietly, her eyes never leaving the recently woken Naruto, while her mind fled back to memories of observations she had made in the boy's life. Despite the hardships, he was truly a unique person, and one that would have changed many people's lives. Arceus's eyes glazed for a moment, looking up at the ceiling, as if viewing something no one else could. Losing the glazed look, he looked down at Cammy who stood by his hooves. It seems Kurama's second chance has already begun. He has been reborn just now, and is currently being looked after by one of my children. He stood straight. It is time. Kushina and Naruto looked up at Arceus, hearing the last 3 words he said. Kushina knew her time with her son was up, but Naruto wasn't going to give up so quickly. He still had some questions that needed answering. Standing up with the help of his mother, Naruto walked up to Arceus. Before you begin whatever you're planning, where exactly am I being sent? Arceus nodded, expecting that question coming sooner or later. Understandable. As I said before, you will be sent to my world. This world is very much like Lady Cammy's, where one aspect of it basically runs the world. Where, in Lady Cammy's, it is ruled by the ways of shinobi, while mine is ruled by the ways of Pokémon. Seeing Naruto's puzzled look, he further explained, I myself am known as a Pokémon, the god of Pokémon. Arceus was actually a name the humans had given me, but I accepted it nonetheless. In my world, there are many creatures, big and small, that utilizes abilities very similar to the techniques you were used to seeing in Lady Cammy's world. You will be sent there, given a chance to live a new life, one to the fullest, as my chosen child, as you were for Lady Cammy's world before your untimely death. But you won't be alone, as my children will help you along your journey. Arceus had a smirk on his face, though you won't know until you meet them during your journey, that is. Naruto nodded slowly, understanding what he's hearing so far. He took a quick glance at his mother before looking back. What about my mom? Cammy decided to answer that one. Unfortunately, we are not certain if we can do anything for her, Naruto-kun. She has shown great interest in following you, to be with you. But we are unsure if we can fully fulfill that wish, given the years since her death. She watched as Naruto gripped Kushina's hand tightly, as she returned the favor to her son. It broke Cammy's heart in doing this, but she never fully said that it was impossible, just unsure. I see. So how will I be sent there? Naruto asked, not letting go of his mother's hand. By rebirth, Arceus answered, your memories shall be sealed, along with some of your mother's, before you can freely access them. You shall be born unique, one of few alive that can use aura, something similar to chakra. Your memories will resurface as dreams until you are ready to unlock them all. When that does happen, your previous life and new one will merge together, giving you all the knowledge of both your lives. Hopefully, this will enable you to use some of the skills you possessed before your death, along with the ones your mother's memories will provide. Which ones? Well, Arceus smirked once more. You'll just have to wait and find out. Naruto listened intently. Looking up at his mother's gentle face, he brought her down and gave her a hug, one he hoped showed all his feelings for her, and how grateful he was to have known that he was loved. Releasing the hug, he turned to the silent deities before him. Letting go of his mother's hand, he stepped up until he stood in front of Arceus. I am ready, Arceus-sama. Arceus nodded. Leaning down, he placed his forehead against Naruto's, and in a bright flash of luminescent colors, the two vanished from the cathedral's hall, leaving behind a somewhat happy Cammy, but also a distraught mother. Cammy looked towards the crying mother, and as a deity, she had overheard what Naruto had said while he hugged Kushina. I love you, Mom, now and forever. Thank you for loving me. It was times like this that she really hated being a goddess. It also didn't help that she herself was a mother, and knew very well the pain Kushina was going through. Moving up to the grieving mother, she placed a comforting hand on Kushina's shoulder. Almost instantly, Kushina latched onto her hand, crying into it, asking repeatedly why. Kneeling down, she pulled Kushina into her arms, letting her cry on her shoulders. I will find a way for you two to be reunited, I promise you both. Just hold on for a little while, Kushina-chan. You will see your son again. Ba-bump, 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 ba-bump. Well, an elderly man in a white coat spoke happily, looking at the monitor next to him. The image on the screen was that of an internal scan, being shown through the use of ultrasonic sounds, and by using the device in his hand that was currently pressed against the lightly swollen abdomen of a long, brown-haired woman. Turning towards his patient, the doctor gave her a smile. Your baby boys are as lively and kicking as ever, Mrs. Ketchum. 3 months down, only 6 to go. Delia Ketchum, the woman who had came for an ultrasound, could do nothing but smile as if she had been given the secrets of eternal happiness, and in a sense she had been. Looking at the screen, she watched as the beating of her 2 baby boys' hearts could be heard, clear as day. Just 6 more months to go, my precious boys. I can't wait to hold you both in my arms soon. If only your father was still around. A single tear rolled down Delia's cheek, the doctor easily mistaking it for joy. He would have been so proud and happy to see you too. Delia placed a hand upon her stomach, rubbing it softly. My little Ashton and Naruto Ketchum. Naruto died. Naruto was killed by Sasuke. Unthinkable. But it happened. So now he's been given a second chance, by 2 great beings, Kami, God, and Arceus. Having met Haku in heaven, his reunion with his mother, knowing that Kurama was being given a second chance as well. How will Naruto fare in this new world after his apparent death in his old one? Find out next time in Naruto, the Aura Shinobi, 13, Memories and a Fox. Chapter 0 End. Chapter 1. 13, Memories and a Fox. Last time on Naruto, the Aura Shinobi. Looking at the screen, she watched as the beating of her 2 baby boys' hearts could be heard, clear as day. Just 6 more months to go, my precious boys. I can't wait to hold you both in my arms soon. If only your father was still around. A single tear rolled down Delia's cheek, the doctor easily mistaking it for joy. He would have been so proud and happy to see you too. Delia placed a hand upon her stomach, rubbing it softly. My little Ashton and Naruto Ketchum. Location: Kanto region, Pallet Town. In the quiet sunny afternoon of Pallet Town, a boy of 13 years, by the name of Naruto Ketchum, could be found lazing under the shade of a big oak tree. The boy wore long, dark blue pants with dual white stripes going down the sides, a light blue to near white plain t-shirt with a poke ball logo on the front in black and pearl white, and a pair of black and white sport shoes. As he slept, the winds blowed softly, fluttering his short, spiky blonde hair aside, revealing his not-so-peaceful face. His brows were furrowed while he dreamt away, dreaming things that made no sense to him. At least, not yet. Begin dream. Please bring him back. The image of a short pink-haired girl can be seen, her eyes red and puffy as she cried profusely. A thumbs up was given to the girl, a voice that resembled his own speaking to her. Don't worry, Sakura-chan. I'll bring him back for sure. That's a promise of a lifetime. A black-haired boy of 13 gave a dark glare. It's time to sever those bonds. Your death will bring me power to defeat him. His eyes spun, the charcoal black that they were to a deadly red with black tomo marks. A mark coming from his collarbone also started spreading, slowly corrupting the skin, turning it to a sickly pulsing red and black. Naruto, the boy from before, having gone through a mutation of sorts, his skin became a sickly grayish black, nails extending into sharp claws, fangs protruding from his mouth, and from his back, 2 large hand-like wings sprouted. The boy was flying across a valley, passing along a raging waterfall. His hand was ablaze with a cackling black lightning, it screeched like 1,000 birds. Sasuke, a bubbling red can be seen, shrouding all around him, the energy taking in the shape of a fox with large ears and a single tail. Left arm was numb, a swirling mass of concentrated red energy swirling around in his right hand. Leaping off the statue behind, he flew across the valley and towards the other boy. Swirling ball of red energy. Crackling black lightning surrounding the clawed hand. An explosion, the energy surrounding them in a blinding light. Then the sharp pain came, and the world went white. Gasp! Waking up with a startle, Blue Eyes looked around wildly, momentarily lost in his surroundings. As his mind registered where he was, he gave a deep sigh before running a hand over his whiskered cheeks. Strange birthmarks he was born with, but he was never bothered by them. His mother even comments on how cute it made him look, which was something that irritated him to no end, since cute and him does not mix well. Stretching his arms, he bends his back to get rid of the kinks. With a satisfied sigh, he dropped his arms to his sides. Sitting up, he looked around to find himself within a place he knew all too well. He grinned, especially since he's been coming here since he was 6, Professor Oak's ranch. A soft yawn and the feeling of small paws caught his attention. Looking down beside him, Naruto smiled upon seeing who it was. An adorable little fox Pokémon, a Vulpix to be exact, also known as the fox Pokémon. But what was strange, or unique, about this Vulpix was that instead of the usual red-furred, one who would associate with their species, this particular Vulpix was golden-furred. Naruto watched as the little Pokémon stretched before shaking, ridding himself of the grass that had clung to his fur. Opening his eyes, they revealed to be crimson in coloration, another unique trait that was not commonly seen in any of the Vulpix kind. Slept well, Kurama? Naruto asked the Vulpix, now known as Kurama. Kurama had been friends with Naruto for years, having just appeared one day in his life. The small Pokémon had never once left his side. Over time, once Naruto realized that the small fox wouldn't be leaving him anytime soon, he decided to name him. Thus he was given the name, Kurama. In all honesty, that name had just popped into his head when he actually first met the Vulpix all those years ago. Almost like a forgotten memory if he was honest with himself. What is it now, boy? You are not in any danger, why have you come here? What, can I come just to talk? It must get pretty lonely down here. I don't need your sympathy, human. Be gone from here. I won't stop, Ninetales. You're inside me, whether you like it or not, we're in this together. And I won't abandon you, like how most of the Hidden Leaf had abandoned me. You're unlike the other humans before you, why? Let's start fresh. Name's Naruto Uzumaki, what's yours? Kurama, just Kurama. Naruto smiled softly. Yeah, almost like a memory. Breathing in the fresh air, he reached down beside him and took up a black bandana. Folding and wrapping it around his forehead, it helped to keep his hair out of his eyes. A big grin on his face, as clear as day, as he looked back down at his friend. Wanna head home? Mom should have lunch ready by now. Glancing up, he sees that the sun was past the noon position already. Actually, make that a late lunch. Oh boy, he chuckled nervously, she's gonna be mad we were late. Kurama snorted in agreement. Standing up, he started his trek from his spot under the tree and towards Professor Samuel Oak's research lab, Kurama trotting contentedly by his feet. Naruto smiled as he looked around him, seeing the numerous Pokémon that were enjoying their freedom within the ranch that Oak owned. From the stampeding toros that could be seen in the distance, the flying Pokémon in the sky or roosting on the trees nearby, to the frolicking Pokémon on the ground that were playing or simply sunbathing as some of the grass-type Pokémon do. When Naruto turned 6, he, along with his mother Delia, helped convince Professor Oak, or Old Man as he affectionately calls him, much to the professor's dismay, to allow him to help around the place. Whether it be to look after the Pokémon, feed them, bathe some of young inexperienced ones who have yet to learn to take care of themselves, or anything else that involved interacting with the Pokémon. Delia even got her second son, Ash, to participate, which soon developed a rather heated rivalry between him and Samuel Oak's grandson, Gary. Naruto, catch him! He froze upon hearing the unmistakable voice of his mother. Oh crap! Daring to look up, he found her standing there upon the back porch of Oak's lab. Her long brownish red hair, a change from her previous brown as she grew older, held up in her scrunchie. She was wearing a long blue skirt, short-sleeved yellow shirt, and a pink short-sleeved jacket that only had the top button done up, revealing the shirt underneath it. What didn't belong there, though, was the scowl on her face. Fist to hips and tapping a foot impatiently, she stared at her sweating son, sparing a glance down to his feet to see the snickering Vulpix, Kurama. A smirk came to her face. Glad you're enjoying this, Kurama, because not only is Naruto in trouble, but so are you. Her grin widened as the snickering stopped, Kurama looking at her with a wide-eyed. Naruto groaned, oh come on, Mom, sorry I was late for lunch. He shrugged helplessly, I fell asleep, can you blame me? It's so peaceful here. Delia crossed her arms, flipping her hair over her shoulder, that's no excuse, mister. A parade of Vileplumes and Butterfrees could be showering you with sleep powder for all I care, but I expect to see you back home, even if you have to sleepwalk to get there, when it's time to eat with the family. Kurama joined this time with Naruto as they both groaned. Sorry, Mom, the blonde said, ashamed, knowing that family meant the world to her. Delia sighed, her anger leaving instantly at seeing her son's dejected state. Meeting Naruto halfway, she grabbed him into a hug. Sorry for snapping at you. It's just sighing again. She gently kissed his forehead. Tomorrow you and your brother will start your journey. I can't help but want to spend the remainder of our time together as family before you leave. Naruto let his mother bring him closer into the hug. Sorry. He mumbled into her shirt. All right, pushing her son off her, she held his shoulders. Enough with the gloomy mood, leave that for the glooms. She joked lightly, getting a smirk and snicker from Naruto. That's better, come on, let's head home. I was able to save some of the food from your brother. So you better eat it all before he tries anything. All right, looking down at his friend, race you back, Kurama? The Vulpix only gave a fanged grin before sprinting off ahead. Hey, that's cheating. No fair. Naruto screamed out as he chased after his fox companion around the Oak Lab, down the hill, and towards the Ketchum residence. Delia took her time as she strolled down the hill and followed behind in her own leisurely pace, laughing lightly as she watched the two racing off. Those two reminds me so much of Mama and her Pokémon, and Ashy reminds me so much of Papa she sweat dropped a little. I just hope he doesn't pick up Papa's unique trait of partnering up with Pokémon that has tempers. Break. Location: Pallet Town, Ketchum Residence. As the day went by, we find Naruto and Kurama lying on the top bunk of a double bunk bed. Kurama, dead asleep at the foot of the bed, while Naruto, wearing a simple long cotton pants and singlet top, was lying on his back, leg on his knee, and reading a Poke Trainer magazine. Specifically one that had an article about Professor Oak and the 3 Pokémon he gives out to newly registered trainers, or the 3 starters as many people call them. The grass type, Bulbasaur, the fire type, Charmander, and the water type, Squirtle. Come on! Use double kick, double kick! No, not horn attack! Naruto glanced away from his reading towards the second occupant in the room. The other person, who was wearing a blue and white jacket with gold trim worn open over a black t-shirt with jeans, green fingerless gloves, and a limited edition Pokémon Expo hat that covered his spiky black hair, was currently watching a Pokémon match on the TV. The match was between a trainer's Nidorino against the opponent's Gengar. No, dodge. Dodge. And if going those reactions, the trainer was losing badly, especially when the Nidorino collapsed asleep from the Gengar's hypnosis attack. The trainer, whose image was obscured, but appeared to be a large muscular man, recalled his Nidorino back. A second later, he tossed a green and white poke ball out into the air, releasing the Pokémon inside. A large snake-like Pokémon made entirely out of large boulders, an Onix, known as the rock snake Pokémon. The blonde smirked seeing it. Onix were one of the most hardened Pokémon a trainer could own, so he knew the match was going to last long, meaning Ash Ketchum! And there comes Delia's voice, right on time. Naruto couldn't help but let his smirk turn mischievous as he returned his attention back to his article. Ash Ketchum is the younger brother of Naruto Ketchum by 5 minutes, and if you were to see the two together, you'd hardly be able to tell that they were related. Ash, unlike his brother, did not possess the unique marks that adorned on the blonde's cheeks, and his hair was black instead of blonde or the brownish red of Delia. According to Delia, though, Naruto got his blonde hair from his grandmother, Delia's mother, while Ash got his black hair from their father. Scaring Ash with her yell, the boy accidentally released the Voltorb alarm clock he was holding in his hand like a poke ball, sending it straight for Delia. Catching it with one hand, not even blinking as she continued staring at her youngest son, she opened the alarm clock to reveal the time was 11 at night on the dot. "Do you have any idea what time it is, young man?" she asked rhetorically. Groaning, Ash collapsed onto a Snorlax cushion that was on the floor beside the bunk beds. "But I'm too excited to go to sleep, Mom. Tomorrow we start our Pokémon journey," he exclaimed excitedly. Delia sighed before sparing a glance to Naruto, seeing that her eldest son was awake and reading a magazine she knew, since it had her old teacher's article in it. She got an idea. Turning back to her youngest, "All right, but if you're going to stay up, you may as well watch something informative." Reaching over to the shelf next to her, she grabbed the television's remote. Pressing a button, she changed the channel. What appeared on the screen was the image of a serious-looking elderly man in his 50s, wearing a lab coat over a red shirt and light brown pants, gray-brown hair and black-blue eyes. The man on the screen was in fact Professor Samuel Oak. It became clear that this show was an educational episode, talking and showing the 3 starters that newly registered trainers receive from Professor Oak. It made Naruto's eye twitch, since he was in fact reading that just now. Delia sighed happily as Ash's attention went full on the program she put on. Sparing another glance to her oldest son, she grinned when he gave her a thumbs up without even looking away from his magazine. Tossing the Voltorb alarm clock at Naruto, he caught it with the hand he was giving the thumbs up with. "Make sure you get Ashy into bed as soon as Sammy's program is done, okay?" "Program, bed, when finished," got it, Naruto surmised with a nod, placing the clock on the small shelf behind him that also served as the bed's headboard. He lowered the magazine, showing his mother his smiling face. "Night, Mom." "Night, sweetie," Delia answered back with an equal smile. Turning to Ash, "Night, Ashy," she said a bit louder, drawing Ash's attention from the screen. "Night, Mom," he said with a smile before turning back to his viewing. Delia just chuckled lightly before leaving her 2 sons alone in their room. As Ash continued watching, Naruto continued his reading, a comfortable silence with only the sounds coming from Professor Oak's program being heard. Ash tilted his head when Professor Oak went on to talk about the different types the 3 starters offered. "Hey Naruto. Which starter are you going to get?" he asked, glancing behind him at Naruto while he rested comfortably on the Snorlax cushion. Naruto placed the magazine down on his lap, a face of puzzlement on his face before turning to Ash. "Didn't I tell you?" Ash shaking his head was his only answer. "Oh, thought I did." He chuckled a little, bringing the magazine up as he answered, I'm going to ask the old man to have Kurama as my partner. Ash blinked. Really? I thought you'd go for Charmander. Naruto hummed. True, I would have if Kurama didn't stay with me, but since he never left, I'm going to make him my first partner. You aren't a monster fox anymore. You're one of my teammates from the Hidden Leaf Village, Kurama. Let's show Sasuke team what a true bond brings. KH. Sentimental idiot, time to ground one of those Uchiha spawns hard. Yeah, my first partner, Naruto muttered, not entirely sure what his mind just brought up. Ash merely hummed, not having heard his brother's muttered words, as he turned back to Oak's program. A picture of Bulbasaur came up, getting Ash to grin. I'm going to get Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur, eh? Nice choice, they're very protective over their trainers, Naruto stated, getting Ash's attention. Before he could ask the question in his mind, Naruto answered for him. The old man gave us a book about a number of Pokémon, one of which included Bulbasaur. You would know if you ever picked it up, any? The blonde chuckled, almost picturing the disgusted look his brother made about reading a book. Ash was always a doer instead of a reader, always acted without thinking. Naruto was normally the same, but even he realized that without knowing the outside world on some level, you could get into some serious trouble. Hearing Oak saying goodbye, Naruto closed his magazine and placed it away behind him on one of the bed shelves. Moving down to fix the pillows he had been using to lean on, he placed his head on them to sleep. Okay, you heard Mom. Once the old man was done, lights off. He grunted as Kurama, who awoke due to Naruto's moving, hopped onto his stomach and got himself comfortable before returning to sleep. Damn fox, I'm not a mattress, Naruto muttered. Fine, Ash grumbled, turning off the television before switching the lights off and heading to the bottom bunk. Removing his clothes and putting on a simple cotton blue pants and short orange top, he went under the covers. Night, bro, he said, getting comfortable. Night, Squirt, Naruto replied cheekily. Hey, annoyed, but groaned when he heard Naruto snickering. Even if he was 5 minutes younger than Naruto, he was unfortunately always nicknamed Squirt. But at least he had fish cake over him, thanks to their mother naming him Naruto. Unfortunately, the name also meant Maelstrom too. Sighing, he closed his eyes to sleep with a smile on his face. Tomorrow, they'd start there on their Pokémon journey. Begin dream. If you sleep out here, you'll catch a cold. I'm sorry, Saab, I'm so sorry. You certainly grew up. I've never been more proud to be your mother, Naruto-kun. And my mother? Yep. Name's Kushina Uzumaki, your kick-ass mother and second Jinchuriki to the Baka Ninetales, Databane. You were not meant to die yet, Naruto-kun. You were meant for great things in your life, the one to bring peace in the war-torn world I had created. A child of prophecy, said to be born from two great people, and was destined to bring about a revolution throughout the lands, bringing either peace or destruction, but I knew you would be the one. You shall be reborn as a newborn child, your memories shall be sealed, along with some of your mother's memories as well into you. The face of Arceus, god of Pokémon, creator of the Pokémon world, suddenly appears within the darkened realm of his dreams. It is time, awaken young Naruto. And dream. Eyes snapping open, Naruto blinked and groaned when the sunlight hit directly into his eyes. Ugh, damn you, son. One of these days, and bam. Right in the kisser, ugh. A snort of amusement reached his ears. Fat chance, Kit. Naruto blinked his eyes open when he heard a voice he had only heard in those strange dreams of his, yet it wasn't as demonic as it was before. Looking down, he saw Kurama waking up, stretching himself on top of him as if he was a comfy bed or something. Hopping down onto Naruto's side, he sat and began grooming himself. Naruto didn't know what to say. Did he just hear Kurama speaking? Shaking his head, he chose to ignore it, thinking he probably imagined it. Sitting up, he stretched his back till it gave a resounding crack. Looking behind, he saw that the time was just 15 past 8 in the morning, a relatively early time. Remembering what day it was, he knew he still had a 45 to an hour's time before he needed to head to Professor Oak's lab. Moving his legs over the side of the bed, letting it hang there for a minute, he looked down. Anyone alive down there? Snore. A sweat drop developed when he heard the loud snore his brother made. Out like a light, while he shrugged before pushing off the bed, landing on the ground softly, Kurama following behind before he trotted out the open door. Naruto looked at the bottom bunk to see Ash really was out like a light. Sprawled out on his bed, mouth open with a bit of drool on the side, and sleeping soundly without a care. Then Naruto shrugged. He's gotta learn to wake up when needed. Maybe not being able to pick Bulbasaur will teach him that. Making his way to the closet, he began changing. Let's see. Mom said not to fix our bags, saying she was going to do that. I'm rummaging through their closet. Guess I'll just wear what's comfortable for me, he grinned when pulling out a rusty orange-colored short-sleeved jacket with black linings. Gotta love the orange. Hee hee. Break. Yawn. Delia jumped a little at the intruding sound. Having woken up early to fix breakfast, she was taken by surprise when the noise came while her mind was in the kitchen. Glancing over her shoulder as she cooked, she smiled seeing Kurama. Oh. Good morning, Kurama. Had a good sleep? She laughed a little when Kurama sneezed and shook his fur. Yeah, it was pretty cold last night, wasn't it? Turning back to her work on the stove, since you're up, my little fish cake must be up too. Kurama hopped onto the kitchen table, watching as the woman who was wearing a bedroom robe started humming a tune and moving to whatever music was going through her head. He couldn't help but sweat drop at the scene. She's so much like her it's scary. He silently thought, yipping in surprise when a hand was placed on his head. He relaxed though, when he recognized who it was as soon as the hand began rubbing his fur and curl. Morning, Naruto greeted with a yawn, grabbing a glass and carton of juice from the fridge before plopping down onto a chair. He was dressed as he was yesterday, but with the addition of bandage wraps around his arms from the elbow to his hands, the rusty orange jacket, and a small purple gem necklace around his neck. The crystal shining on his t-shirt, since he preferred his jacket open. Morning, sweetie, Delia turned to her son, and was surprised he was already dressed. She smiled, getting ready. I see. She looked around. Ashi isn't awake yet, is he? A shake of Naruto's head was her answer. Delia sighed a little. That boy, I swear. He could sleep through anything. And why didn't you wake him up? She looked at him with a raised brow. Naruto shrugged. I thought it would teach him a lesson about waking up when needed. Especially if he doesn't get the partner he wanted at the start, it should stick to his mind that way. Besides, he waved a hand. I already tried waking him up. If he does wake up anytime soon, and he says that his cheeks hurt, don't tell him how he got it. He snickered, which was joined by Delia. Oh, you cruel big brother, she admonished, but had a huge grin on her face. You take too much from me and my mother, you know that? Turning back to the stove, she grabbed a plate before scooping up what she was making. Turning around, she placed the food on the table in front of Naruto, before making her way towards a cabinet to fetch Kurama's food, so taking out a container filled with Pokémon food she made for Kurama. Have you decided which Pokémon you're going to ask Sammy for as your starter? Naruto nodded, swallowing the scrambled eggs he had in his mouth. Yep, taking up his glass, he drank a bit to wash down the food, going to ask the old man if I can make Kurama my partner. Delia gave herself credit for being only mildly surprised. She knew they were close, very close, since Kurama was still considered a wild Pokémon, not having been caught yet. Really? She glanced down to Kurama as she brought him a bowl of pokechow. Rubbing the Vulpix's head, Kurama dug into his meal. I was sure you were going to ask Sammy for a starter, then just capture Kurama when you receive the complimentary poke balls from him. That way you would have two right off the start. Naruto just grunted at that idea. No thanks, that would be like cheating. I prefer to start with one then work to earn more partners. Besides, if I do that, then I get the advantage over the others, and you know I prefer to give a chance for others, so that you'll have a challenge in the future. I know, sweetie. Delia finished for him, reciting what Naruto says all the time whenever he can gain the advantage over someone, usually Gary. Sitting down, she continued patting Kurama on the head as he ate. So a Vulpix for a starter? Not the first time a trainer from Pallet went with something other than the three originals, but it's a first for a Vulpix, she said with a smile. Naruto hummed in agreement, swallowing the last of his food. Ah, that was heavenly. I'm going to miss your cooking, Mom, he said cheerfully as he patted his stomach. Even as simple as breakfast, nobody else can beat you in the kitchen. Delia laughed. Well, I'm glad you think that way. Guess that means you just gotta learn to cook as good while you travel, no? Ugh, true. Naruto nodded grimly. He had nothing against cooking, oh no. It was the cooking that had something against him. He's just terrible in the kitchen, and the only thing he is able to make is those instant noodles/ramen cups. Standing up, he took his plate to the sink. So what time do you think it'll be before little bro wakes up? He asked as he began washing. Delia sat there crossed-armed, humming in thought. In honesty, I'd say near noon. That boy could sleep through a typhoon for all we know, she answered with a giggle. Glancing at the clock, she noticed that it was 8:45 in the morning. It's almost time for Sammy to open up his lab. Why don't you finish up while I fix your bag for your trip, my little fish cake? She grinned, knowing that Naruto hated that one meaning for his name. Naruto groaned loudly. I swear, Mom, were you eating a bowl of ramen when you were coming up with my name or something? He questioned. Delia just continued grinning as she stood, turned, and walked out of the room while humming an innocent tune. I never like it when she answers that way, damn. He hung his head dejectedly. Kurama snorted in amusement before snickering. Watch it, furball, He glared at his fox companion. Keep in mind that when I go to register you, I can nickname you however I want, Mr. Fluffytail's Mac Whiskers. He warned with a sly grin on his face, enjoying the warning growl that Kurama was giving him. No way was he ever going to name his partner that, but it was good to make him believe that he would consider it. Leaning back on his chair, Naruto brought a hand up and absent-mindedly started patting Kurama on the head, Kurama resuming his eating. Closing his eyes, he let his mind wander. It is time, awakened young Naruto. What did that mean? Sighing tiredly, my dreams have always been so vivid and lifelike. But that was the first time that I dreamt of a creature like that. A small frown came to his face. For some reason, I should know that face. It looked kind of familiar too, like I've seen a picture or something of it before. Giving a last pat on Kurama's head as the fox finished his meal, Naruto stood and placed the finished bowl away in the sink. Kurama stuffed and happily content in being so. Well, shall we go, Kurama? He asked, already heading out the back door. Kurama following beside him. I'm heading to Old Man Oak's place, Mom. He yelled out, not knowing where Delia was at the moment. Okay, sweetie. Delia's voice shouting in response from somewhere in the house. Once Ashy wakes up and heads there, I'll finish packing and bring your things there, okay? Okay, he shouted back. Turning around, he walked out the door and into the streets of Pallet Town. Watch out, world, we're coming. Naruto couldn't keep the smile off his face, Kurama by his side as they enjoyed the fresh air. Both heading straight for Professor Oak's lab, and the start of their journey into the wide world of Pokémon. Naruto Ketchum, 13 years old, eldest son of Delia Ketchum, and older brother, 5 minutes, of Ash Ketchum with Kurama the Vulpix by his side, he takes his first step out into the outside world. His past life has already begun merging with his new life, but how will Naruto react when it finally all comes together? What's in store for the two Ketchum boys as they set out on their journey? Find out next time in Naruto, the Aura Shinobi, Pokémon, I Choose You. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2. Pokémon, I Choose You. Last time on Naruto, the Aura Shinobi. Okay, he shouted back. Turning around, he walked out the door and into the streets of Pallet Town. Watch out, world, we're coming. Naruto couldn't keep the smile off his face, Kurama by his side as they enjoyed the fresh air. Both heading straight for Professor Oak's lab, and the start of their journey into the wide world of Pokémon. Location, Pallet Town, Professor Samuel Oak's research lab. Naruto and Kurama stood before a large building, which rested upon a hill that overlooked Pallet Town. With a large white windmill by its side, it was known throughout Kanto as the home of the famous Professor Samuel Oak. Fingering a gem necklace around his neck, a bluish gemstone that had one time belonged to his grandmother from his mother's side, Naruto reached out and knocked on the door to the building. Nobody answered. Knocking again. I heard you the first time, give me a second. A voice yelled out somewhere deep inside. Crash. Darn it, not again. Crash. Crash. Confound it all. Naruto and Kurama's sweat dropped as they listened to the noise inside, but didn't have to wait long before the door opened, revealing the man that was Professor Samuel Oak in person. Yes, how can I Naruto my boy, and Kurama too, up and early I see. How can I help you two today? Oak asked with a smile. Naruto and Kurama's sweat drop only grew hearing that. Old man, I came to register. Oak nodded, but still didn't connect the dots as of yet. I start my journey today. Ringing any bells? He asked, the notion finally connecting in the professor's mind, if his eyes widening was any indication. Oh. Yes, of course, that's today? Wow, time sure flies by. Stepping aside, he motioned for the two to come in, forgive me, my mind was a million miles away. Turning around, he walked back into his research lab. Naruto followed in from behind, taking a look around, seeing the mountain of papers and equipment stacking on desks and corners. Some even on top of the machinery Oak used in his research. Forgive the mess, I've been busy as of late, and my research has piled on quite considerably in my absence in the last week. The professor said embarrassingly, admitting that he does tend to let his work escape him at times. Naruto's interest perked at the topic. How is your research coming along, old man? He asked. He had been around Oak's lab since he was 6, so he was bound to have picked up a few things here and there, and has gained an interest in Professor Oak's research regarding relationships between Pokémon and humans. Splendid actually, Oak exclaimed happily. I just received some interesting information from a colleague of mine in the Johto region, has helped wonders on my end of the field, and I was able to exchange some data I had that interested him. So we all helped each other out in the end. Turning a corner in the crowded hallways, the trio entered what Oak dubbed as his research room. Entering the room, The professor turned and found Naruto looking over all his machinery and work. Kurama had at some point made his way onto the boy's shoulder and was gazing along with him. He coughed loudly, getting their attention. Now, you came today to register for your trainer's license and begin in your journey, correct? Oak asked. Seeing Naruto smile and nod, he went to one of his desks. Rummaging through the drawers, let's see, where is Aha? Here we are. In his hands were 5 small red and white orbs, poke balls, and a small red handheld device. The Pokémon handheld electronic illustrated encyclopedia, or Pokédex as they were called, was red and rectangular in shape, having a single blue orb-like lens at the bottom left-hand corner of the device. The cover of it looked to be able to flip open, and to the right side of the device was a small section that ruined the rectangular look, but seemed to have on it one of those movement control panels. A/N, Generation I Pokédex from Fire Red and Leaf Green. Oak came up to Naruto, handing the device and the 5 shrunken poke balls to him. Let me be the first to congratulate you on becoming a Pokémon trainer. The elder Oak proudly said, stepping back as Naruto put the poke balls inside his jacket, while flipping the Pokédex open. Greetings, I am Dexter 2.0, a Pokédex program by Professor Samuel Oak for Pokémon trainer Naruto Ketchum of the town of Pallet. My function is to provide Naruto with information and advice regarding Pokémon and their training. If lost or stolen, I cannot be replaced. Naruto smiled as the slightly feminine electronic voice of the Dex program introduced itself. He turned the device towards Kurama. The Vulpix had not even moved an inch from his shoulder yet as he lay there comfortably. He scanned. Ding Vulpix, the fox Pokémon. At the time of birth, it is born with a single white tail. As it grows and develops, the single tail gains color and split into 6. When it evolves, it is said that the Vulpix's tails burn as if they were on fire. Closing the Pokédex after it had ended its explanation, he pocketed the device into a free spot inside his jacket. Turning to Kurama with a raised brow, he gave him a rather calculating look. Somehow I just can't see you having a single tail. Let alone a white one for that matter. I take it you want Kurama as your partner? Oak asked, having watched the two silently. Naruto nodded. Yep, Kurama's my first partner, and I want to start this journey with him. Hope that's alright, old man. The professor just laughed. I had a feeling that'd be the case. Moving up to Naruto and Kurama, he brought his right hand forward, revealing another Pokeball. It was the same as the others, only with the addition of a small circular, flame/fire, sticker with an even smaller white K inside the flame, on the red top half of the Pokeball. That is why I got you this one, especially for Kurama. Handing the Pokeball to Naruto, he patted the boy on the shoulder. Congratulations, my boy, a fully licensed trainer, already a strong partner by your side, and no more studies, huh? He joked. The blonde groaned at the mention of studies. Thanks, old man, but never mention the dreaded S word again to me. It was tough enough on my own, but I also had to make Ash study. That alone was just plain murder. He shuddered lightly, remembering those particular times. Oak gave a good laugh at that. Yes, I'd imagine that. Where is that brother of yours, by the way? I would have expected Ash to come along with you. He had a hunch, but wanted to be sure. Naruto checked the time on a nearby wall. 9:30, still pretty early. Kneeling, he expanded the Pokeball Oak gave him for Kurama, and tapped the fox on the head. Watching as his friend and partner, who was grinning up at him, turned into red energy and get sucked in. No shaking, with an immediate ding, indicating a successful capture. Naruto smiled softly as he held the Pokeball in his hand. Thanks, Kurama, I won't disappoint you. Standing up, he stretched his back. He would have, if the squirt woke up same time as me. Mom and I decided it would teach him a good lesson to wake up when it's needed, if he is unable to get the partner he wanted to. Oh, turning to Professor Oak, he wanted to pick Bulbasaur, by the way. Bulbasaur, nice choice. They're very protective over their trainers. The professor stated, getting a snort from Naruto. He raised a brow in question. Was there something funny with what I said? Waving his hand, no, nothing serious. Just, when Ash said he was going to get Bulbasaur, I said the exact same thing. He tapped the side of his head. I remembered it from that book you gave us some time ago. Oak looked pleasantly surprised. You remembered it from one of my books that I gave you? He smiled. Well, I'm glad to have helped. It was no surprise considering the high score you received on your license test. Albeit, it was not as high as Gary's, but considering I'm his grandfather, some of my genes must have passed down. Scratching his cheek sheepishly, but still, you were only less than 5% below Gary. That alone was shocking and surprising. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Ah, thanks, old man. Before their conversation could continue, a knocking sound interrupted them. The pair simultaneously turned in the same direction the noise came from. Seems some more trainers decided to arrive. Turning back to the professor, Naruto nodded his head. I'll just step on out to the ranch and spend some time there to wait for Ash to make his appearance. Catch you later, old man. He waved as he started leaving. Take care, my boy, Oak replied, watching as Naruto left the room. Making his way out of the room, he went to greet the newly licensed trainers waiting for him. Shaking his head, he couldn't help but think, that boy, he's something else, I tell you. Great things will come of him. I can just tell. Break. Location: Pallet Town, Oak's Pokémon Ranch. Stepping out in the backyard of Professor Oak's lab, Naruto found himself back where he was the day before. Taking out Kurama's ball, he pressed its button, expanding before opening, and released a white light from within. The light stream left the ball and struck the ground, collecting on itself and reforming back into Kurama. Kurama gave a shiver before shaking his body, as if to dry himself off. Just by the fact he acted this way, gave Naruto a clear idea of how his partner reacted to being inside the Pokeball. Pocketing the ball away, Naruto knelt down to rub the grooming fox's head. So, how was being put into a Pokeball for the first time? He asked. Kurama gave his trainer a deadpan look. Chuckling nervously at the face Kurama was making, Naruto raised his hands in defeat. Point taken. Want to stay out then unless it's an emergency? He offered as a compromise. Kurama looked to think it over, before he gave a hesitative nod of agreement. Sighing quietly, Naruto stood up to move about the ranch. I guess not every Pokemon likes being inside those Pokeballs. He stopped and leaned on a wooden fence, just enjoying the day and the scenic view. He found himself watching two Pokemon fighting each other. They were both of the same species, Nidoking, the drill Pokemon, and final evolved form of Nidoran, the poison pin Pokemon. There was also another Pokemon watching the pair from the sidelines. This Pokemon was Nidoqueen, the drill Pokemon, and the final evolved form of Nidoran, the poison pin Pokemon. Both were part of the same family, but also being different when gender was concerned. The two purple muscle behemoths were fighting against one another, while the light blue females sat watching. If Naruto had to guess, the Nidokings were trying to win the attention and heart of the Nidoqueen. Obviously this was a form of ritual, where the winner gets the girl, as it were. The mechanic wonders of the Pokemon world. Right, Kurama? Naruto asked his partner, who had made his way to where Naruto was standing, watching the same scene as his trainer. Kurama just snorted at what Naruto said, getting the blonde to nod slowly, as if understanding him, while never taking his eyes off the two wrestling behemoths. If you say so, buddy. I still find it funny and strange that they fight to get the attention of the girl they like. Trainer and partner both tilted their heads, their eyes moving with the two Nidokings, but I guess humanity does the same thing, don't we? Vulpix, Kurama replied nodding, even with the language barrier between them. Trainer and Pokemon winced as one of the Nidoking got the other with a devastating mega punch, yet they still stood strong. The two continued watching the Nidokings fighting it out, letting the time pass as they waited for the moment Ash would make his appearance. He's going to be really late, isn't he? Naruto questioned after a while. Kurama answered with a nod. The two hanged their heads with a sigh. Break. Time skip. So this is where you two were hiding. The unmistakable voice of Delia greeted their ears. Dressed in her casual wear, she had two overstuffed backpacks slung over her shoulders, a testament to her strength, and the mystery that was Delia Ketchum. Something Naruto has yet to understand. Naruto glanced behind to see his mother, not stopping what he was doing as he freed one hand to wave at her. Oh, hey mom. Ash awake already? He was busy disinfecting and bandaging up a bruised, scratched, and slightly bleeding, from said scratches, Nidoking. Delia had no clue how to react when seeing something like that, or with how the Nidoking looked. The large, purple behemoth was just sitting on the ground dejectedly, letting the boy tend to his wounds. He wasn't even flinching when Naruto dabbed the scratches and wounds. Delia just raised a brow at the sight of the Nidoking. The Pokemon looked like he got put through the 10 rounds of a pokering match, and lost badly. Am I missing something here? She hesitatively asked, moving slowly around the sulking Pokemon and towards her son. Huh. Oh don't worry, the usual grunting as he secured a bandage tightly around the Pokemon's muscled arm. A fight between males to get the attention of the female. This guy put up one heck of a fight, even stood against a mega punch. But in the end, the other one won and took the girl. Since then, this guy's been sulking. Patting the behemoth's shoulder, but don't let that girl keep you down. There's plenty of queenies out there for you to win over. Just train hard to win and you'll get a girl one day. The Nidoking just grunted before standing up and making his leave. Kurama growled before shouting, not liking how the Nidoking didn't even thank Naruto. Naruto patted Kurama on the head. Calm down, Kurama. Leave him be. turning to his mother. Soap opera aside. Ash woke up finally, huh? Delia nodded. About bloody time. Naruto, language! Delia scolded playfully, a knowing smirk as she knew he picked up more from her mother other than just her hair color. Sorry, Naruto stood up before dusting his hands clean. So what partner did he get? I know by now Bulbasaur must be gone, since they're pretty popular. Walking along with his mother, his own backpack over his shoulder, the two made their way around the lab to the front yard, Kurama trotting behind them, listening in for personal interest. Delia just shrugged. I don't know. I just got here now, and Ashi is still inside with Sammy. Gary had left already though. Getting Naruto's questioning attention. You didn't know he was here before, did you? She deadpanned him, only to receive a shake of his head as an answer. She sighed. I see. Well, anyways, from what I've heard, he'd chosen Squirtle. A Squirtle, Naruto must, his mind wandering on the mystery that is Gary Oak. That boy, grandson of Professor Samuel Oak or not, was always too egotistical for his own good, but was damn clever when it mattered. So why choose Squirtle? It couldn't just be because of Kurama, could it? Kurama, having heard about Gary's choice, was mentally noting it down as a type advantage over him. For years, Gary, Ash, and Naruto were always competing with one another, though the latter not by his own choice. The fact they were now trainers meant they'll eventually battle one another. And Kurama was already at a disadvantage being a fire type, while Squirtle was a water type. Delia looked behind at the trotting fox following them. Looking at her son as she nodded in Kurama's direction, you asked Sammy to make Kurama your partner, any problems with it? Her answer was for Naruto to take out Kurama's pokeball. She blinked when she saw the flames/fire sticker. Isn't that just lovely? She smiled. Gives some good ideas on categorizing your team as well, you know, in case you're interested, that is. Helps with remembering which is which when you have too many, or if, but pray it doesn't happen, they get lost or stolen. I have thought about it, he admitted, pocketing the ball away. Kurama though doesn't like it. The ever-present Vulpix gave a flamed snort and nod of agreement. He really didn't like them. As the group of three entered the front yard, Naruto raised a brow at seeing some people standing there. Friends of the Ketchum family from what he could see. Looking at his mother questioningly, he motioned at the crowd of people waiting by the front gates. Delia chuckled nervously, scratching her cheek. Oh well, you see, she sighed in defeat. Oh forget it, no use excusing this. I wanted a small farewell for your leave, so I gathered some of our friends together for it. I see. Naruto trailed off, looking back at the crowd. By now a few had spotted them and waved at the pair. Waving back slowly, though nervously, he looked back at his mother's grinning face. You just enjoy embarrassing us, don't you? He questioned her, but already knew the answer. Delia shrugged with a lopsided grin on her face. It's part of the mother's job description. She joked, making her way towards the group, leaving behind her quiet son and his partner. Naruto just stared as his mother talked with the group of people by the gates, all waiting for Ash to make his appearance. He looked down at Kurama. Part of the job description, she says. Shaking his head, he sighed before making his way down. Mothers are so troublesome. He froze suddenly, a shiver running down his spine. I think I just said something that's been used repeatedly by someone else. Strange. Kurama busted out laughing, as only a Vulpix could, knowing full well what and who he meant, and very soon, so will Naruto too. Break. Oh my, Ashi is growing up. Delia gushed out, hugging her youngest son tightly against her. Having stepped out to the front yard after his meeting with Professor Oak, Ash quickly found himself within the arms of his overly affectionate mother. This would have been a normal between mother and son, but Naruto noticed something different. Someone added to the picture. Ash was wearing rubber gloves. The reason for that was most likely the grumpy-looking Pokémon by his feet. The Pokémon was a Pikachu, the electric mouse Pokémon, and given that there was no curved bump on its tail, revealed the Pikachu to being male. When and where did the old man get a Pikachu? Naruto watched silently as Ash introduced his partner. He quickly noticed the little Pokémon's electrical cheek sparking, and the annoyed face it was making. Taking a step back, a very temperamental Pikachu at that, he sweat dropped. Aren't you just the cutest little guy? Delia cooed as she bent down to pick the little Pokémon up. Wait, Mom! Naruto and Ash were too late. Delia had picked up the Pikachu, and to retaliate at being hand-handled, the Pikachu let loose his electrical power, shocking Delia, Ash, Naruto, and everyone else that had come to wish the two brothers farewell. Hopping down from the crisped woman, Pikachu watched with glee as all the humans around him collapsed to the ground, some still sparking some electricity. Showing that they were paralyzed, a status effect that sometimes happens when getting shocked by an electric Pokémon. Laughing in his own Pika way, Pikachu fell back as he pointed at the smoking humans. He would have continued too, if his tail hadn't suddenly been set on fire. Jumping in panic, he started bashing his tail against the ground to put it out. Crying at seeing his burned, smoking tail end, he hugged it closely to him as he turned a glare towards the Pokémon that had done it. Kurama snorted at the Pikachu's glare. Sitting down, he began grooming himself from the electric treatment he was put through. That was for my fur, rodent. Pikachu shook his small yellow fist at the smirking Vulpix. Rodent. Say that again, I dare you. His cheeks acted sparking lightly, showcasing the anger Pikachu was portraying towards Kurama. Giving a mock gasp and feigned look of surprise, Kurama looked at the Pikachu with amusement. Oh my, so the rodent has some bite, does he? He taunted, further angering the Pikachu. Pikachu's electric cheek started sparking more at the fox in front of him, while Kurama's mouth started lighting up as fire began building up within his throat, though Kurama did have a sadistic grin on his muzzle, liking the prospect of battling already. By now everyone was up and standing again, and were just watching the two Pokémon arguing with one another. Nobody understood what they were saying, but the ending was clear as day. Sitting against the fence, Naruto turned to his brother with a deadpan look. You just had to get a temperamental electric Pokémon for a starter, didn't you? Ash, sitting by his brother, could only chuckle sheepishly as he scratched his head. Naruto shook his head, unbelievable, even more so that the old man even had a Pikachu to begin with. Delia, having dusted her clothes off and fixed her hair back from the frizzed-up form it was before, could only sigh loudly at seeing this. Great, you're just like your grandfather, right down to the choice of partner personality. She chuckled lightly as she patted her youngest son's head. In that case, I got one piece of advice for you, Ashy. Ash looked up at his mother questioningly, but mostly afraid of even knowing, and that is? Delia just smiled sweetly. Be sure to change your underwear every day, okay? Ash's face went instant red. Mom! He shouted embarrassed, covering his face with his hands as everyone laughed at the irony, but truth behind that message. Turning to her still laughing eldest son, as for you, be sure to eat plenty of healthy food, not always those instant noodles you devour like a Snorlax if you had the chance. Delia said with seriousness and a hint of exasperation. Naruto went silent, looking at his mother like she had just kicked a puppy grow lithe. You're kidding, right? I can't cook to save my life besides those. He almost yelled in panic. Now everyone's laughter directed itself to Naruto's expense. As everyone continued on with their talks and farewells for the two brothers, two temporarily forgotten Pokémon stood by and watched it all, neither near the other, and constantly sending each other glares in the forms of glances. Pikachu looked, though with a mild glare at not having forgotten what happened to his tail, towards Kurama. That blonde-haired human, he yours? He thumbed, clawed, towards Naruto. Kurama gave the little electric Pokémon a glare and growl in return. His name's Naruto, rodent. Pikachu just waved the fox off. Whatever, they're all the same, only difference being their fur and scent. Besides those, they're all power-grubbing, short-minded, violent creatures. Shaking his head, not Naruto. Kurama replied softly, gaining Pikachu's attention. Without paying the Pikachu any more attention, Kurama turned to look at Naruto, his gaze looking somewhat distant. It was almost as if Kurama was remembering something long past. Seeing Kurama stare at the blonde, while also looking to be lost within his memories, Pikachu too looked at the human trainer of the fox Pokémon. He just couldn't understand why a Pokémon would even defend a human like the Vulpix had, or as fiercely either. His gaze then turned towards his own human trainer, who smelt, when he was being handled before, like the other, probably related. The more Pikachu thought about the humans, Naruto and Ash, the more he began to wonder. If the blonde had somehow earned the respect of Pokémon, did that mean not all humans, as he thought, were bad? And if so, perhaps his trainer was the same. Seeming to catch himself before that thought developed, Pikachu gave a snort and shake of his head in disgust at the sheer idea of it. Sitting quietly, Kurama had kept an eye on Pikachu, watching as the mouse Pokémon seemed to be having a conflict with himself, and knowing what that conflict was about. You'll learn soon enough, Kurama thought to himself, before he looked back at Naruto with a small smile. We're not the only ones that live in this world. You'll see what I see, and I am positive Ash will be the one to show you. Break. Location, Kanto region, Route 1. Time skip. Having said their farewells, plus a struggle in escaping from a tearful mother who changed her mind about letting them go, Naruto and Ash made their way out of Pallet Town, and into the wide world beyond their small settlement. Kurama and Pikachu behind them, though Pikachu not by choice. If the little electric mouse being pulled by Ash and a length of electric-proof wire was proof enough. Naruto looked behind, seeing Ash's partner getting dragged while his own partner was snickering at the mouse Pokemon's misfortune. Stubborn little thing, ain't he? He couldn't help but be slightly disappointed in both Pikachu and his brother. Reaching out, he grabbed Ash's shoulder. Stopping at the touch, Ash turned to his brother. Something wrong? His only answer was for Naruto to look at him, then nodding behind them. Turning, he was greeted with the sight of Pikachu attempting to bite through the wire that restrained him. Looking back at his brother, he flinched when he saw that Naruto hadn't changed his expression. He relented. Bending down, Ash undid the wires and removed the rubber gloves from his hands. Ash looked down at his now free Pokemon. Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. I won't keep you tied up, but can you at least get along with me, or give me a chance to prove to you I mean well? He held out his hand, and offered, hoping Pikachu would accept it. Pikachu looked at the hand before scoffing and looking away. With a sprint, the small yellow rodent made his way up a nearby tree and sat comfortably on a high branch. Ash's eye twitched as he stared at his clearly disobedient, thick-headed, mischievous, and stuck-up Pokemon he had even come across, let alone partnered up with. Getting frustrated, he let his inner thoughts be heard. "What is up with you?" he yelled, momentarily stunning Naruto and Kurama, as neither one ever seen Ash get angry. Well, if you don't count Gary, but other than him, Ash never got angry at anyone else. I mean, well, I really do. But you won't even give me a chance at all. Ash continued yelling, his Pikachu watching him vent out. It's almost like you hate me, but we never even met each other until just a few hours ago. Why do you hate me so? Not just you. I don't like any humans at all, Pikachu thought, annoyed, his sensitive ears slightly ringing from Ash's yelling. Pikachu's gaze quickly glanced towards the other human, Naruto, but was a bit surprised to see the blonde looking at his blood brother, A/N, blood as in family, in disappointment. But that look was soon directed towards him. Pikachu was quiet for a while, but gave another scoff before turning around and lying on the branch. It wasn't because he was bothered by that look, not at all. Naruto sighed, seeing that the electric Pokemon really was a stubborn one. He looked down to his partner, and was happy to see that Kurama shared his opinion as well. Looking back towards Ash, he stopped him before the black-haired boy went on another rant. How about we take a small break, Squirt? Maybe some R&R will do us some good, any? Ash was about to open his mouth, but closed it immediately. If there was one thing he learned over the years, was that when his brother made a suggestion, it was usually in his own best interests to take the advice. Besides, they had been walking for some time. Some rest might be good. Letting out a tired sigh, Ash nodded in defeat. Some rest might be good. Making his way towards the tree Pikachu was occupying, he unhooked his backpack and collapsed onto the ground with his back on the trunk. Only now did he realize how exhausted he was. Naruto and Kurama shared a look. An idea coming to mind, Naruto turned to his brother. While you take a rest, I'm gonna go and see if I can find any Pokemon to practice battling with, maybe find one to catch. Why not take this time to try and understand Pikachu better, Ash? He suggested, and Ash looked a bit interested in that idea. Seeing his brother hooked and lined, it was time to take his leave. Come on, Kurama. Let's see if we can't find another partner. He walked off, Kurama by his feet. Now alone, Ash looked up to Pikachu, and Pikachu looked down at Ash. Their eyes locked with one another. Pikachu scoffed once more and turned away, while Ash sighed and banged the back of his head against the trunk. Damn you, bro, you tricked me, I just know it. Looking around, his eyes landed on a silhouetted form of a Pokemon commonly seen all over Kanto. Is that a Pidgey? A glint of something appeared in his eyes, while a smile broadened on his face. Break. Time skip. Watching as another opponent he had Kurama battle scurry away, Naruto pouted at the lack of fighting spirit there was in the Pokemon he had come across so far. The only ones they had even encountered in the fields were the small, rodent Pokemon known as Rattata, the mouse Pokemon. Naruto's gaze towards an equally annoyed Kurama. We're not having any luck, are we? He asked, only to receive a deadpan stare from the fox. Yeah, I guess you're right, he grumbled. There's got to be a Pokemon nearby that loves to battle. If only we had a sign. Kurama's ears perked up as he heard something. Listening closely, he was positive it sounded like flapping wings. But there was too many of them going at it at once to be a mere coincidence. Then, just underneath the sounds of wings, he could make out someone yelling. Someone like? By now, Naruto was hearing the sounds of wings as well, but before either could question it, a small yellow blur shot past them, followed closely by a black and blue blur. Blinking, Naruto looked to see that it was Pikachu and Ash that had just literally blurred right past them. What the heck was that about? Feeling a frantic tucking on one of his pant legs, he looked down. Kurama was panicking, nodding and pointing with his muzzle back to where Pikachu and Ash had come running from. Looking up, Naruto's face paled to sheer white. Holy crap! Not wasting a moment, he picked up Kurama, and bolted right after the duo he knew were responsible for this mess. Right behind him was what could only be described as a literal army of Spearows. The sheer number of them was astonishing, and Naruto could only guess at this point what exactly Ash did to tick them off. God damn it! I swear, Ash Ketchum, you're going to kill me one of these days. When I get my hands on you, I'm going to kill you! He vowed in his mind, never breaking speed as he attempted to outrun the incoming doom. The screeching calls of the flock rang in each of their ears, as each Spearow was calling out for their blood. Spearows were known to be dangerously territorial, this just proved that fact. As he was being held by his trainer in their mad dash to survive, Kurama could only sweat drop as his eye twitched. We only stepped away from that town for less than 2 hours, and we're already in a life and death situation. A mad grin suddenly made its way to his muzzle. It's just like the good old days. We're back, haha. Thank you, Kami-sama and Arceus-sama. Officially trainers of Pallet Town, Naruto and Ash Ketchum, along with their partners Kurama the Vulpix and the stubborn electric mouse Pikachu, have taken their first steps into the world. And not even a day later, they're running for their lives. How will they survive? And if this happened on their first day, just what will the future hold for the two brothers in their journey? Find out next time in Naruto, the Aura Shinobi, Thunder and Lightning, Pikachu. Chapter 2 End. Chapter 3 Thunder and Lightning, Pikachu. Last time on Naruto, the Aura Shinobi. As he was being held by his trainer in their mad dash to survive, Kurama could only sweat drop as his eye twitched. We only stepped away from that town for less than 2 hours, and we're already in a life and death situation. A mad grin suddenly made its way to his muzzle. It's just like the good old days. We're back, haha. Thank you, Kami-sama and Arceus-sama. Location: Pallet Town, Ketchum Residence. Delia Ketchum, single mother of 2, former student to the world-known Pokémon Professor Samuel Oak, and all-around house mother in town sunshine, sighed sadly for what seemed like the 100th time, for her at least, in the last hour. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. The grandfather clock she had near her wasn't helping in calming her nerves either. She was at home, in her small 2-story white cottage house, sitting alone on the living room couch with a picture of herself and her 2 boys, back when they were younger, along with a familiar fox in between the boys. The picture was taken when they were around 5 if Delia remembered. Using her thumbs, she traced the faces of her 2 smiling baby boys in the picture, and sighed again. Time sure does fly by, doesn't it? She muttered, a sad smile on her face. Those 2, feels like only yesterday that I held them in my arms, back when they were babies. Now look at them. Grown boys off on their own adventure. This time, her sad smile turned happy. You would have been so proud of them. Her thoughts drifted to her deceased husband of years past. Delia placed the picture frame down onto the coffee table, before leaning back on the couch. She looked around the room. Seeing the place was clean, she couldn't pass time cleaning. Passing a glance towards the kitchen, she saw that the sink was empty, so no plates, glasses, or utensils were needed to be washed. In her mind, she already knew she had gone up to her boys' room several times to tidy the place up, picking up any leftover clothes she might have missed, or beds that were needed to be fixed. So that was out of the question. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. Shoulders slumped. This place sure does feel different with the boys and Kurama gone. Delia threw her head back over the couch, the back her hand against her forehead, as she cried comically, "Why oh why did I let the boys talk me into letting them become trainers?" Her drama moment over, she lifted her hand slightly to gaze at the white ceiling. I don't even know why I did, especially with what happened to her. Mind drifted towards her husband once more. Shaking her head clear of those thoughts, she slapped her cheek slightly. Get your head out of there, Delia. My boys aren't that prone to danger, not like their father or grandfather was. Delia's mind went back to when she was young, when her mother used to tell her stories as a child about their own journeys. Dad sure was lucky to have Mom with him when he did. Funny how things worked out. They met on their journey, traveled together, and even had some exciting adventures together. A thought crossed her mind. I hope the boys don't end up like that. I'm too young to be a grandmother. Yet, at least. Sighing, her nerves seemed to get tense by each ticking the grandfather clock made, and if she were more like her father, she might have taken a hammer and smashed the evil machine to oblivion and beyond. Thank heaven she wasn't like him, and more level-headed like her mother. An idea popped into her mind. Maybe some time in the garden will do me some good. It was known throughout Pallet that Delia was the main person to go when it involved gardening. She was simply the best, and the beautiful flower garden around her home yard attested to her skills. She didn't gloat though, even with several first-place ribbons from nearby garden festivals. Nope, no gloating at all. Stepping out of her home, a cream-colored large brim hat adorned on her head, Delia made her way to the nearest garden bed that needed her green thumb touch. With a hand-sized shear in her gloved hand, Delia began pruning her roses first. As she busied herself with her beloved hobby, she couldn't help but wonder, it's been some time now, my boys must be halfway to Viridian City by now. A small smile on her face as she hummed a tune, they must be having the time of their life, oh, if only she knew. Break. Location, Route 1. Many thoughts went through Naruto and Ash's minds when they drew closer to this day. They thought of many things, even dreamed what they'd encounter along their journey. An adventure, battling in tournaments, making new friends, visiting new and exciting places, seeing new Pokémon of different shapes and sizes. But never, in all their years, did they think that their beginning journey would start up like this. Home seemed like a good place to be right now. Damn you, Ash Ketchum! When we get out of this mess, I'm so going to strangle you! Naruto yelled to his brother. The pair were running side by side in their mad dash to survive, with Naruto never once thinking of letting go of his partner, Kurama, who was enjoying his ride under his trainer's arm. I'm sorry! How many times do I have to say that? Ash yelled back, his breathing getting heavier. Despite his physique being considered fit for someone his age, Ash wasn't prepared for this length of running. Naruto, however, was still breathing fine. His physique being more trained than Ash's, he was more used to this kind of physical activity than his brother was. So far, they'd been on the move for a good while now, yet their pursuers were still chasing after them from the sky, their screeches getting on their nerves, and making them all irritable. Running just in front of them, Pikachu too was yelling in anger with a hint of fright in his voice. Even though either brother could understand him, Kurama however did. It didn't take a genius though that Pikachu was either insulting Ash, or panicking because of the flock. He wasn't entirely afraid of them though, being an electric type and all, he had a huge advantage over flying type species. But a whole flock, and more, of them was too much even for him. Comfortable being carried as he was, Kurama scoffed at the Pikachu, get used to it, rodent. He chuckled as Pikachu turned to him with an incredulous look. Kurama nodded with a sadistic smirk, if Ash is anything like Naruto, this will be a common thing in the future for you too. Pikachu looked at the fox with a shocked, jaw-dropped expression. Comical tears ran down his face as he thought to himself in misery, what have I gotten myself into? I was just hungry, snuck inside that human's home looking for a bite to eat, got myself captured by that old human, and then I was given away to this crazy human child. The screeching sounds of the flock behind them, reaching for miles, ringed loudly in the ears of the human pair and their partners. Spearows were known to use this method to warn their own kind to danger. Irony really had a funny way of showing itself. Shut up! All four shouted at the flock, only for the Spearow flock to respond by getting louder and angrier. The collective force swore as the added aggression led to some foolhardy Spearows to skydive at them. Beaks and talons at the ready, the flock began attacking. Not wanting to be on the receiving end of their attacks, Naruto grabbed Kurama with both hands and tossed him upwards facing the incoming Pokémon. Kurama, use Ember now! Not needing to be told the plan, and more likely grinning at finally being able to cause some havoc, Kurama went into action. As he was in the air, his mouth lit up as fire began to build. Opening his muzzle, a barrage of small orange ball-shaped flames shot out of the fox Pokémon's mouth. The attack exploded on contact with the Spearows who weren't expecting it. Catching his partner as gravity returned him, Naruto couldn't help but grin. Good work, buddy, you gave us some cover glancing behind him, and managed to take some out too, nice. As the smoke cleared a bit, Naruto was able to spot at least 6 Spearows on the ground, unconscious and burned, but alive. They had to have been weak. He watched as several of Spearows shot out of the smoke, continuing in their pursuit. Some slightly burned, but relatively unharmed, those ones are tougher ones, great. And we can't pull that trick again since they'll see it coming. Kurama on the other hand was giggling madly, seeing his downed opponents. Even with a new life, a new body, and a new way of doing things that involved attacking, his thrill for battle had remained unchanged. Naruto wisely chose to ignore his mad giggling partner, and concentrate more on his running. As this was going on, Ash wasn't having as much luck with the Spearows that went after him and Pikachu. Even when seeing them coming, Pikachu still wouldn't listen to Ash when he told his stubborn partner to launch a thunder shock at them. Choosing to continue running, Pikachu was soon overcome by the onslaught of several Spearows that decided to handle him first. Quickly succumbing to their attack, Pikachu collapsed but was quickly scooped up by Ash, never losing footing as he continued running. The Spearows that had attacked Pikachu were about to chase after them, but was blindsided by an Ember attack that caught them dead on. Ash turned, spotting his brother giving him a thumbs up as he ran, and with Kurama relaxing on his head. All the while, once in a while, Kurama launched a barrage of ember at the few Spearows that dared dive at them. Seeing that they had some cover, the two brothers took off from the dirt path, and into the woods nearby that stood between Viridian City and Pallet Town. If nothing else, the trees would provide multiple chances of escaping their sight, hopefully. Break. Location: woods, riverbank. Time skip. Deep within the forest that stood between Pallet Town and Viridian, a young girl of 13 can be found sitting along a riverbank. With a fishing pole in her hands and a lure in water, the girl was cute, while also being uniquely fashioned. She had short, orange hair done up in a side ponytail, which was sticking out on the left side of her head. Her outfit consisted of sneakers with orange, white and yellow colors, short-cut greenish jeans that hugged her hips, held up by a pair of red suspenders, and a yellow sleeveless tank top that revealed her stomach. Her green eyes stared unblinkingly at the end of her fishing line, watching and waiting for a prey to take the bait. From a point of view, one would mistaken her as a statue, quite literally, as she was completely unmoving and unblinking. She had been at this for some time, with very little luck, but she wasn't about to give up any time soon. Bop bop! And the statue appearance broke, as a smile blossomed on her face when she felt and saw her line being tucked. Gotcha! Standing up, the young girl pulled back her line. Oh, I hope it's not one of those Magikarps again. Maybe it'll be a Goldeen. But then again, Goldeens aren't known to being in this area. Maybe a Poliwag, or maybe a Splash! With a mighty heave she had finally pulled in her catch-in, only for her jaw to drop at what she was seeing. A boy around her age, wearing mildly scratched clothing, and one of those official Pokémon League caps. Well, there's something you don't fish up every day, she thought, shocked, surprised and stupefied. Landing harshly on the ground, coughing at finally being able to breathe, Ash's lung expelled the water it had taken in. He was sore and banged up, yet his arms had never once released the beaten and weakened Pikachu that they held securely to his chest. Ah! A Pokémon! The girl muttered worryingly, having seen the Pikachu in Ash's arms unconscious with a quick glance. Forgetting her fishing pole, she rushed to the boy's side. Oh, are you okay? Calming his breathing, Ash spat out the last of the water in his mouth. Why yeah, I'm fine. A cross look came upon the girl's face. Not you. I meant that per Pokémon. Is it alright? Her last few words coming out softly, full of concern towards Pikachu. Ash's left eye twitched at the casual dismissal of his well-being. Well, it's not like I wasn't drowning, not even 5 seconds ago. But sure, I'm fine. He might have understood the girl's worry for his stubborn partner, but was her attention really so solely focused on Pokémon that she'd forget there was a human also involved? He barely made it out alive while in the stream, and the fact his jacket had been hooked by, apparently, the girl's fishing line, he was grateful for the save. Ash looked down at his partner, and his own concern for his Pokémon became known. I think so, but we need to get him to a Pokémon Center quickly. We? The orange-haired looked confused. Sure, she had fished up this guy and his Pokémon. Okay, very weird way of thinking that, a quirk of a smirk at that amusing thought. But that didn't mean she was going to help all of a sudden. For all she knew, this boy might have been the cause of the Pokémon's condition. Ash blinked. Yeah, me and my brother, huh? Finally looking around, he only just noticed the sudden absence of Naruto. Looking back at the girl with some unease. You, wouldn't happen to have fished up another guy, would you? If only I was that lucky, she muttered to herself depressingly. Shaking her head slowly. No, are you sure you're alright? Maybe you hit your head on something while in that river. It is pretty fast for humans. She grabbed onto Ash's head, checking in his hair for any signs of blood. The sounds of screeching was soon heard approaching, and the girl watched as Ash's face suddenly drained of all color. Oh no, I thought I lost them. He panicked. Looking around, he spotted a bicycle that most likely belonged to the girl. Sorry, but I need to borrow your bike. I promised to return it, but I gotta go. Even though he was asking, he was already doing. Having hopped on the bike, putting the unconscious Pikachu in the basket that was on the front, Ash raced off on the human-made path that hopefully led out of the forest and towards Viridian City. All worries about his brother vanished under the extreme concern he felt for Pikachu's safety. If there was one thing he knew about his brother, it was that Naruto was more of a survival expert than he or Gary was. Hey, that's my bike! The girl angrily yelled out. She was not at all happy that some kid she fished up from the river, having a clearly beaten and tired Pikachu in his arms, and now had taken her bike without so much as a name to call him. This just wasn't her day. The screeching and flapping of wings suddenly grew closer, drawing the girl's anger towards that. With a growl, she turned around to face the noise. what the heck is making all that? She trailed off as her eyes went wide, seeing the Spearows that were coming through the forest. Screaming in fright, she ducked into a nearby bush, staying low and quiet until the Spearows passed. Several seconds later passed before the whole flock had left. Risking it, she stuck her head out of the shrub and had a look around. Coast was clear. Splash! Screaming loudly as a hand suddenly popped out of the water, she nearly fainted when yet another boy came out of the river. This time it was a blonde-haired youth, crawling in scratched-up clothes like the previous boy, and with a sputtering, water-spitting Vulpix under one arm. Wait, that kid said brother, could he? Her previous anger for the boy that had taken her bike had resurfaced, now being directed towards the boy that had appeared. Hey! Who are you? And who was that kid that took my bike? She yelled, stepping out of the bushes. Wiping the soaked, blonde hair away from his eyes, cool blue eyes snapped their attention to the orange-haired girl's green. Letting the Vulpix go, as the fox shook itself dry like a wet growlithe, Naruto pushed himself to stand. Never taking his eyes off the girl, he growled up with clenched teeth, which way did he go? Oh, Naruto was pissed, and Ash Ketchum was going to pay dearly for pushing them off a cliff and down a bloody waterfall. He was nearly eaten for crying out loud. The girl gulped, suddenly very afraid of the murderous look the blonde was making. With a flash of her arm, she pointed directly in the direction Ash had vanished. Naruto grunted, I see, Viridian city's that way. Smart. He looked down at his Vulpix. Oh, Kurama, finished drying up yet? He asked his now semi-dry partner. Kurama merely looked at Naruto, a look that spoke, does it look like idiot? Looking back at the girl, his face went apologetic. Sorry for the scare, name's Naruto Ketchum, hope to meet you again one day. The girl blinked at the name, finally having something to go on besides the two guys she fished up. Sure, no worry, she mumbled, her mind still trying to comprehend everything that has been happening to her in the last few minutes. Naruto smiled, anyways, nice meeting you, but we gotta go. Looking down at his partner once more, come on Kurama, let's go save an idiot. Kurama snorted at that, agreeing with that 100%. With that said and done, the boy and his fox went off running, leaving the girl alone once more. The girl's eye twitched, and today started out like any other day. Why me? She sighed as she rested her chin on her hand, her eyes looking in the direction the blonde went. At least that one was cuter than the other. Same goes for his Pokémon, even if it is a fire type. Kurama, what an interesting name, not many trainers name their Pokémon nowadays. Looking around, she spotted her forgotten equipment, backpack, and camping gear. Well, I could go after them, get my bike back and all. But what was that whole deal with the Spearows? Sighing, she started clearing up the area of her things. Guess I'll find out once I get my bike. Viridian City Pokémon Center was where he was heading. Break. Time skip. Running after a person that had a bike, not a very good idea. The boom of thunder made itself known, as Naruto and Kurama were running under a freak thunderstorm that literally appeared out of nowhere. Flinching at the noise of thunder, Naruto never liked thunderstorms. He didn't know why. He loves electric-type Pokémon, at least when he read about them or sees them on television. He even hopes to get one himself someday. But the sound and crackling of lighting just made him jump for some unknown reason. Kurama, on the other hand, didn't mind the thunderstorm. It was just the rain he didn't like. Wet fur made for one very unhappy, fire-loving fox Pokémon. Having pulled up his jacket over his head to provide some cover, Naruto could barely see anything ahead of him, the heavy rain pouring down on them hard. Damn it, the sky was clear not even 10 minutes ago. Where in the name of God did this storm come from? And that idiot is cycling to escape those Spearows. A small frown made its way onto Naruto's face, no doubt about it. He'll either slip somewhere, hide somewhere, or get caught by the flock. Not counting the last one, and knowing he isn't one to rationalize in serious situations. So that only leaves with the slip-up. Hearing a sneeze, Naruto glanced down towards his soaked partner. His frown deepened, maybe we should find shelter. Looking back up, mentally cursing as the wind seemed to pick up, making it much harder to see ahead of them, at the very least, until this storm passes. Seeing a large tree nearby, one that was also surrounded by smaller trees and shrubs, Naruto and Kurama made their way over there. Finally having relief from the onslaught the storm brought, the two sat right in the middle, no longer getting belted by the rain, but still getting lashed by the harsh winds. Not as much as before, but it was better than nothing. Taking off his thoroughly soaked jacket, and thankful it helped protected his backpack from the rain, he slapped it against the trunk of the tree behind him, watching with a flat look as it actually stuck there unmoving. Kurama snickered at seeing that. Yeah. Laugh it up, you furball, Naruto muttered. Standing in front of large iron gates, cool blue eyes glared up at equally glaring large slitted red-crimson eyes. What the heck do you think you're doing, Furball? I didn't ask for your power to handle that situation. I was doing just fine. Fool! You know of our situation. If you die, I'd die. If you think for one moment I'd let you get yourself killed, you have another thing. Wait, the large crimson eyes blinked rapidly, finally registering what was said to him. Did you just call me Furball? Defiance and smugness portrayed itself from the much smaller blue eyes. Yeah, so what, Furball? Large, numerous razor-sharp teeth made themselves known, as a gigantic jaw dropped in surprise. You called me? Muttering in disbelief, the Nine-Tails shook his head. Why, you weak sack of flesh! I am the mighty Nine-Tailed Fox. Not a damn Furball as you so call me. Show some respect to your obvious, and vastly superior, betters. His deep voice boomed, shaking the air itself. Despite the immense power he felt, the much smaller individual held strong. In your dreams, Furball. Respect is earned, not given. He pointed defiantly at the large crimson fox. Why, you insignificant little! And before either knew it, they had spent a good portion of the day, the two of them just insulting one another. It was the start of their strange friendship. What a weird yet beautiful thing. Grumbling a little at the sudden throbbing of pain, Naruto rubbed his head to stave off the headache that had come with it. If he had his eyes opened at the time, he'd have seen Kurama watching him intently. Crimson eyes showing anticipation, excitement, and relief. Just a little bit longer, a small smile came upon Kurama's muzzle. Vivi? Trainer and partner froze at the voice. Light and soft, it was feminine, and sounded young. Looking in the direction it came from, they found themselves staring at large, innocent brown-colored eyes. Vivi? The small Pokémon stuttered as it shivered. It's for wet, having obviously taken shelter from the storm. Naruto and Kurama blinked. The small Pokémon blinked right back. Reaching into his back pocket, which thankfully was dry, Naruto pulled out his Pokédex and pointed at their guest. Ding! Eevee, the evolution Pokémon. Eevees are a unique breed of Pokémon, able to adapt to their environment by changing their forms and abilities when evolving. Their genetic code is irregular, thus allowing them to evolve in a variety of ways as a result. Putting the device away as it finished, Naruto looked back at the shivering Pokémon now revealed as Eevee. It was still huddling within the shrub for warmth. He frowned. Reaching into his backpack, he searched inside until he found what he was looking for, before making his way towards the Eevee. Shivering from the cold, having taken shelter from the storm simply to survive, and now the Eevee had to deal with these two unknowns. It knew the Vulpix species, but the human was new. It had seen humans from time to time around these areas, always capturing fellow Pokémon, which was why it was scared and now shivering more. As the human got closer, it closed its eyes and laid still. It yelped when something dry and warm wrapped itself around it, and being lifted into the air. Wrapping the small, wet, shivering Pokémon within a small hand towel, Naruto brought the Eevee up to his chest while kneeling back to where he was before. His back to tree trunk, he looked down and stared at those large, brown confused eyes of the small Pokémon. Smiling, he didn't need to say anything. He was just happy when the shivering stopped, with the Eevee now snuggling against him to keep warm. Well, I was going to use that to dry my hair in Kurama, but I think this was more worth it. Naruto mused, moving his arms till the Eevee was comfortable. Kurama, meanwhile, having shaken himself semi-dry, was now simply watching with a grin. Well, isn't this a surprise? But then again, Naruto had a knack for making friends simply for being who he was. Not needing any incentive, Kurama made his way towards them, making himself comfortable against Naruto's leg. A smug grin making its way on his muzzle as Naruto absent-mindedly started scratching his furry head. Guess being small and fluffy has its perks. I still miss being able to topple mountains with a single tail though. As the storm around them raged, the now three refugees stayed close together, waiting for the weather to pass. Naruto, absent-mindedly scratching Kurama with his free hand, while slowly drying up the Eevee with his other, gazed towards the path they were following. It was the only path that went from Pallet Town to Viridian City. A worried look came to his face as the largest lightning strike since this storm started flashed across the sky up ahead. Just be safe, little brother. Break. Escape. That was the only thought going through Ash's head at this point. It was the only thought he had when he jumped off the waterfall back in the forest. It was the only thought he had when he was fished out of the river, after taking that girl's bike. And it was the only thought screaming in his mind now, when the Spearows had found him once more. Cycling through a storm was one thing. Cycling at high speeds in the rain was another. But when the Spearows took advantage of the harsh winds, picking up their own speed to catch up to them, that was what led to the inevitable. Now Ash wasn't simply thinking of escaping. As he fell to the ground hard, he wasn't thinking about his well-being. All his thoughts went to the downed Pikachu that went flying further when he had crashed. Now, however, All he thought about was to protect his partner, protecting the Pokémon that wanted nothing to do with him. Call him strange, call him an idiot, but Pikachu's was his partner, whether the Pokémon liked it or not. And Ash Ketchum, no matter how little sense it made, protects his comrades and friends. Even Gary, Ash would begrudgingly admit to himself, counted on that list. Feeling the Spearow's gaze behind him, Ash pushed himself off the ground, reached into his pocket, and knelt down beside the now conscious Pikachu. He placed a Pokeball, one with a yellow bolt symbol on it, in front of his Pokémon. Look, I know you hate this thing, and for whatever reason, hate me too. But for once, please listen and get inside your Pokeball. It'll keep you safe, and after today, Ash chuckled lowly, a sad smile on his face. After today, you won't have to worry about me again, deal? Not waiting for a response, Ash stood once more and turned. He faced the army of flying types that hunted him and his brother for the better part of the day. Pikachu, despite being weakened, could have gone into the Pokeball for safety. He knew he would be safe, and he also knew he could eventually break free from the containment as well. But for some strange reason, he just couldn't. Looking away from the Pokeball, he looked up at human he hated. Why, he continued watching. Watching as a single human stood up against a large flock of Spearows that easily looked to be near the hundreds. Whether that was accurate or not mattered little. Why would he seek my safety, but not himself? Flashback, Pikachu's POV. Not Naruto, the fox bastard replied softly, gaining my attention. It was only then did I realize how the man was acting, almost as if that blonde human had done something worthy of his loyalty. I turned to look at his human. What did you do to earn the respect of a man like that? I then turned to look at my own human. He smelt like the blonde. Could they be blood brothers? Are they similar? Could humans really not be that bad? Maybe mine is the same, maybe I caught myself before that idea developed. Shaking my head, I snorted in disgust. No way. I can't think like that. All humans are the same. I didn't want to believe, so I looked away. End flashback. The memory of how that fox looked at his blonde human rang through Pikachu's head. Is that why he acts like that? Is it because that human is different from others? Different like his blood brother? Having earned the respect of a man like that, looking up, he watched with horror as the Spearows started their attack, all of them heading towards the open-armed, determined Ash Ketchum. The human was going to sacrifice himself for his safety, when all Pikachu had done was hate and stubbornly ignore the human's words and actions. I must be going nuts. Pushing off the ground, he felt his legs moving on their own accord. Jumping, Pikachu landed on Ash's left shoulder, but with a final push, he launched himself in the air, putting himself between the human and the flock that hunted after them. I want to protect this human, my human. As lightning streaked across the sky, Pikachu's own hidden abilities directed that natural lightning, the very power of the world, towards himself. He didn't know why he was risking himself, but deep down he knew. I want to believe. And the world around them turned white, the cry of Pikachu being the only thing anyone or anything heard for miles. Fleeing from a flock of angry Spearows, two Bros finds themselves separated from each other. Now, at the end of their first day of their journey, Naruto finds that he is unable to protect his younger brother, as he usually did in the past. For Ash, he makes his choice to stand up before the flock, all to protect the one partner he had in his life. But Pikachu also makes a choice. What will this choice be? And how will it affect their continuing journey if they survive? Find out next time in Naruto, the Aura Shinobi, Onwards to Viridian City. Chapter 3 End. Chapter 4 Onwards to Viridian City. Last time on Naruto, the Aura Shinobi. And the world around them turned white, the cry of Pikachu being the only thing anyone or anything heard for miles. Location, Route 1. A new day rose, with the storm of last night becoming nothing more than a passing memory. The sky was clear, except for the marvelous rainbow that bridged the sky. The grass was moist with the morning dew, the Pidgeys were singing, and the Rattatas were frolicking in the nearby fields. But not everyone was happy or content on this bright, glorious, fresh day. Grunting somewhat painfully as he hefted a broken down, burnt up and completely useless bicycle across his back, Naruto Ketchum turned to his temporary female human companion. Remind me again why I'm carrying your bike, he emphasized on the your part. After the storm had passed overnight, Naruto was surprised to find the same orange-haired girl that had fished him out of the river yesterday, standing over him as he awoke from his slumber. Misty Waterflower was the girl's name. Turned out she had found her bike, but as Naruto had seen it firsthand what became of it, knew it was beyond repairs of any kind. How she had found him when he wasn't anywhere near the path, he owed that to his troublesome Pokémon companion, Kurama. The bike was clearly involved with an electrical incident, and both knew about Pikachu, more so Naruto knowing of Pikachu's tendencies to electrocuting Ash. Unfortunately for him though, Misty had blamed both Ash and Naruto for the demise of her only bicycle. Ultimately, Ash was the one that had to pay for Misty's bike, but since Naruto was Ash's brother, she had decided that he would carry her broken-down bicycle all the way to Viridian City. Lucky him. Misty turned to look Naruto over her shoulder, an eerie smile on her face, and a rather noticeable skip to her steps. Because your brother caused this mess, and you are going to carry it for me. She turned around, not once missing a step as she started walking backwards. Holding her arms towards her chest, she gave Naruto the most, to people not aware of her intentions, tearful look she could muster, and of course, I'm just a sweet, innocent, weak little girl, who couldn't possibly carry such a big and broken-down bicycle all on her lonesome. She was putting on such an act, she even gave a few sniffles to go with her speech. Naruto and Kurama, whom was by his feet trotting alongside him, gave a snort of disbelief. By the way, Misty spoke out, getting Naruto's attention back on her. The orange-haired girl, who was still walking backwards completely at ease, was pointing down behind Naruto. What are you going to do about her? The her in question happened to be the same Eevee whom Naruto and Kurama had stayed the fierce stormy night with. Even when waking up, the Eevee, who Naruto learned was female thanks to his Pokédex, never left his side. At first, Naruto had thought the little Pokémon would run back home first chance she could. But that was not the case. Kurama had been quiet about this, obviously knowing something he hadn't noticed or realized. But then Misty made a suggestion to him, a theory on why the little brown ball of fluff was staying at his side. Maybe she imprinted on you, and now thinks you're her parent, or at the very least family. But Naruto was against that idea. Not so much on not liking it, but because of the problems it would cause. He was a trainer, meaning he and his Pokémon were going to train hard and battle hard. This was something he knew the Eevee could not handle, considering the Pokémon's age. Something he also learned from a feature on his Pokédex. Even Misty had to agree on that, to some level, but also thought he should at least care for her till she grew of age if he was so against keeping her. Naruto had to give credit to Misty on that idea. He was tutored by the professor of Kanto, Samuel Oak, for numerous years, and knew how to care for Pokémon of different types, genders, species, sizes, and shapes. One little Eevee was no problem to him, but he was still hesitant. Leaving the place he and his partner had stayed for the night, he had prayed and hoped that Eevee would get the idea and go home. But to his distress, she hadn't. Now she was following behind quite happily, skipping and yipping to Kurama occasionally, and sometimes even frolicking onto the nearby fields of flowers to jump about and play. Then she would come straight back to him. If Misty wasn't so kind and soft-hearted to cute Pokémon like the little Eevee was, she'd have opted to capturing the Pokémon herself, but knew it would ultimately cause emotional pain to the Eevee because of her apparent attachment to Naruto. Looking behind, Naruto spotted the skipping Eevee, tail wagging and yipping wildly as she trotted around Kurama, who was looking quite amused. Sighing, he turned back to Misty. Honestly? I really don't know. I'm still hoping she'd go back to her home, or den, or wherever it is Eevees live in. But obviously he nudged his head backwards, causing Misty to giggle lightly. Plan didn't work out. Misty gave a shrug, and spun around to face the front once more. I still think you should capture her. Eevees are extremely rare to find, especially female ones. I'd have given anything to have one myself, mostly because of their water evolution line, but no such luck. She shook her head in mock dismay. The one and only Eevee I find has been smitten by a brutish boy. Hey! Misty continued, the back of her left hand against her forehead, as she used her right hand to grip where her heart rested, and now I must stand aside and watch helplessly as that same brute of a male refuses to see such devotion being given to him. Oh, woe is me, and again, she was selling the act with those same damnable sniffles of hers. Naruto groaned at the dramatic act she was putting. Looking down at his partner, he found Kurama snickering at him. Eye twitching, he nudged the fox with his foot. I'm really considering changing your name right now, back to my original threat. But alas, it did not quell the snickering fox. Misty chuckled, clearly hearing what Naruto had said. What was the original name you threatened your Vulpix with? She inquired, slightly curious. Fluffy Tail's Mac Whiskers, Naruto monotonously replied back with a straight face. Ha! Busting out laughing, it was Kurama's turn now to sulk and grumble, while Misty was having a field day with that name in her mind. The clash of the name and Kurama's personality was hilarious, and she even pictured what it would be like when announced in an official Pokémon battle. Calming down, Misty looked to their front, a smile coming to her face as she spotted the shadowy rooftops of Viridian City's tall buildings. Hey! I can see the city from here. We're nearly there, Naruto. Oh, thank the heavens. Ignoring the pain praise behind her, Misty's steps gained a slight spring to it. Last one there's a rotten execute. And with that, she sprinted into a run down the dirt path, and onwards towards the looming city ahead of them. Left in her dust, Naruto stopped in his own steps to watch the shrinking figure of his female human companion. Looking down at his partner, his expression of utter confusion. Is it natural for girls to be this hard to understand, Kurama? The golden-furred Vulpix merely looked at Naruto with a deadpan expression. Looking briefly to the skipping Eevee behind them, he returned to looking at his trainer. Naruto nodded in understanding. Yep, you're right, all girls are impossible to understand. Hefting the bicycle on his back to a somewhat comfortable position, Naruto sprinted as much as he could to catch up with Misty. Kurama sprinted alongside his trainer, but slightly behind, as he turned to the skipping Eevee that was surprisingly keeping up. I have to find a way for the kid to accept her onto the team. Times like this, I really miss actually talking with the kid. Kurama sighed quietly to himself. Is anything wrong, Mr. Kurama? Kurama sighed again, this time out of slight annoyance. Kurama, just call me Kurama. He replied to the timid, feminine voice of the young Eevee next to him, and no, nothing's wrong. Just thinking. Hearing this, Eevee's concerned look vanished with a small smile. Oh, okay. Sorry if I bothered you, Mr. Kurama. She made an adorable squeak as she caught her words. Oops, I mean Kurama. Kurama rolled his eyes. It seemed Eevee had an annoyingly well-mannered habit of saying Mr. and Miss or Mrs. to everyone. The only good thing he found about it was the humor he'd get when the little Pokémon used it along with a description. For example, with Misty she had called her Miss Carrot, in accordance with her orange hair. It wasn't so much the title that got him laughing, but the irony of hearing someone else getting nicknamed a vegetable. He knew of another one being given a vegetable nickname before, but that was from another time, another life. Don't thank me yet, Kurama thought to himself. Looking at his trainer, he frowned a little. I need to figure out how to get Naruto to accept her in our group. With nothing else to say between them, the two small Pokémon sped up to catch the running human pair. All the while, Kurama kept thinking of the request the young Eevee had asked of him. It wasn't much of a request, but more of a final plea for help. Kurama did in fact know something his trainer did not, and it was unfortunately connected with why the little Eevee had not returned home yet. I wonder how the kid will react if he ever found out this little one is an orphan. Kurama spared a glance between the happily skipping Eevee next to him, and to his trainer, Naruto. Break. Location: Viridian City, Pokémon Center. Ash Ketchum, Pokémon trainer of only a day, found himself sitting just outside of the emergency room of the Viridian City Pokémon Center. Having somehow survived the ordeal with the Spearow flock, and in some ways knew it was only thanks to his partner Pikachu, Ash had awoken to the new sunny day by his Pokémon's side. His short time of relief, however, was cut short as he took notice of Pikachu's condition. Having ran the rest of the way to Viridian City, Ash had arrived just past mid-afternoon, but was stopped on his way to the center by one of the city's police officers, Officer Jenny. She had accused him of being a Pokémon thief, mainly because of the fact he was carrying his Pokémon, and not in a Pokeball. After clearing the whole thing up, thanks to his Pokédex, the officer's personality took a 180 turn, and apologized profusely. Ash was then offered a ride on the officer's motorcycle to the Pokémon Center. In the end he didn't have much say, and was taken on a roller coaster ride as Officer Jenny rode like a maniac and right into the Pokémon Center lobby. The tongue lashing he received from the Nurse Joy of the Viridian Center didn't help quell the guilt he already had, knowing his Pikachu was in this condition because of his recklessness. As soon as Nurse Joy had seen Pikachu in Ash's arms, the pink-haired nurse immediately took the small yellow electric Pokémon from his arms, and into emergency room to be treated. And here he waited. Sighing, Ash looked once more towards the doors that separated him from his only partner. Damn, it's my entire fault. Why did I have to use a rock of all things? Ash decided to do something else to take his mind off things. Standing up, he made his way into the lobby, only to pause upon seeing a video phone nearby. Can't call home yet, Mom would kill me if she knew what happened. A brief memory flashed in his mind, one with a bird flying over the rainbow. That bird, maybe the professor would know what it was. Curiosity getting the better of him, Ash decided to call up Professor Oak. Ring ring. Ring ring. The screen flashed before replacing itself with the smiling image of the good old professor on the other side. Hello, Professor Oak speaking. Samuel Oak spoke automatically, but after seeing who the caller was, Ash, good to see you, lad. How are you? Where are you calling from? Briefly looking around Ash's view, he noticed someone missing. And where's Naruto? Ash swallowed nervously. He had forgotten about that little detail. Things just go complicated, and he only prayed the professor wouldn't make his guilt any worse. Break. Location: Viridian City, city streets. That was him. That was definitely him, I know it. Misty shouted vehemently, knowing full well whom she had seen only minutes ago. The quartet, Misty, Naruto, Kurama, and Eevee, had arrived at Viridian City not long ago. And only moments previously, they had spotted Ash talking with the local officer Jenny. But before anyone could call out to him, the black-haired trainer was taken by the officer to who knows where. They had two guesses though, the Pokémon Police Department, or the Pokémon Center. Kurama had a third idea, but wasn't going to say it while amongst children and a youngling. Naruto rolled his eyes, thanking whatever god above that they were the only people walking in the streets. Seeing as the sun was close to setting, and people were either leaving the city, or at home by now. The four of them were currently heading towards the Pokémon Center, their best guess on where Ash would ultimately be at if Pikachu was indeed injured like Misty remembered. Looking at his orange-haired companion, "Look, will you calm down? We'll see the squirt soon, and then you can blow your top off, deal?" Misty accepted, but it didn't stop her from grumbling. The sounds of a motorcycle reached their ears. Looking down the road, they saw the same Officer Jenny from before. Naruto cursed his luck, knowing something awkward was about to happen. Skidding to a stop, her tires leaving a trail of burned rubber in its wake, Officer Jenny stopped in front of the walking quartet. She had greenish-blue hair and amber-colored eyes, and was wearing a short-skirted police uniform mixed with dark and light blue, with red at the end of her short sleeves, collar, and the top of her headgear. She also wore a pair of white gloves and black-colored heels. Stepping off her ride, Officer Jenny stood before the teens and Pokémon. "All right, who are you kids, and what are you doing out at this time?" It seemed the city had a curfew of some kind, both Naruto and Misty realized, since it was still daylight. Misty, seeing as Naruto was too busy carrying the extra weight of her bicycle on his back, chose to respond, "We're, sharing an uneasy look with Naruto, we're just looking for someone." "A likely story," the greenish-blue-haired officer interrupted, reaching a hand behind her back to grasp a shrunken pokeball on her belt. "And what of those Pokémon behind you, did you happen to steal them?" she demanded, sending a serious look towards the human pair. Kurama raised a furry brow at the woman. "Wow, she's almost as bad as the kid is when jumping to conclusions. If we were stolen, then why in the name of the 9 levels of hell would we be following them?" he thought with a high level of sarcasm. Grunting with the weight on his back, Naruto decided to intervene in the conversation, if one could call it that, and end it before it got worse. "We're not thieves, we're just looking for my brother, Ash Ketchum. I'm his older brother Naruto, and as for the Pokémon behind us, I'm looking behind at the two mentioned Pokémon, the Vulpix is mine. But the Eevee, she's a different matter." He was not 100% sure on how he was going to explain that part exactly. "Oh, you're Ash's brother? You look nothing like him," Jenny replied offhandedly, yet suspiciously, as she narrowed her brown eyes on him. Sighing, Naruto nodded. I know. Mom says I got my looks more from our grandmother, while he got his from our father." He doesn't know how many times he has told that same line, but he was really getting tired of it. They couldn't be that different, could they? They were born together after all, so shouldn't they share some similarities? Maybe he was just overthinking things again. Officer Jenny nodded as she smirked. "All right, I'll believe you. That is if you can provide proof of identification," she challenged, thinking she had caught them red-handed. Only for her smirk to fall when Naruto pulled out his Pokédex from his jacket, flipped the lid, and pressed a button. "Greetings, I am Dexter 2.0, a Pokédex program by Professor Samuel Oak for Pokémon trainer Naruto Ketchum of the town of Pallet. My function is to provide Naruto with information and advice regarding Pokémon and their training. If lost or stolen, I cannot be replaced." The message, even though he had heard it before when he received the encyclopedic machine, brought a smirk to Naruto's face at seeing the officer's own becoming red and embarrassed. The officer rubbed the back of her head nervously. I'm sorry about that. The city's under watch as Pokémon thieves were reported being spotted. I was just making sure, you know?" She laughed uneasily, berating herself for making the same mistake twice, and to 3 kids at that. "Oh, so that's why the city's so barren?" Misty side commented, earning a stiff nod from the officer. "We placed a curfew on the city. Any person on the streets after hours is a suspect. This is actually the 3rd night we'll be holding it," Officer Jenny confessed. Looking down at the 2 Pokémon, she finally took notice of Kurama's coloration. "That's a unique fur color. I'd recommend putting your Vulpix away before the thieves spot it. They might go for it, since it is a rather rare sight. As for the Eevee watching amusedly as the little Pokémon tried hiding behind the Vulpix, they are hard to find, especially around here. I'd recommend the same idea." Naruto winced. "Kurama, he doesn't like Pokeballs." Kurama flamed snort in agreement, "and as for the Eevee, she's technically still a wild Pokémon. Seeing a questioning look for his statement, he elaborated, "She isn't captured by either of us." He motioned between Misty and himself. Looking down at the Eevee again, Officer Jenny noticed how, despite hiding as best she could from view, the little Pokémon kept glancing towards Naruto. She smiled at the scene. Looks like a case of Pokémon choosing their trainer. Cute, but troublesome, and by going how young she looks, has to still be a baby, maybe a little older. This complicates things. But the law is the law. "You're the officer that took his brother a little while ago, aren't you?" Misty asked. Breaking from her thoughts, Officer Jenny turned her attention back to the kids. "Ah, yes, I am. You said you were looking for him, weren't you?" She had completely forgotten that they were looking for him. Thumbing behind her towards where she knew the Pokémon Center was. "I took him down to the Pokémon Center. His Pikachu didn't look so good." Remembering the wounded Pokémon, Jenny looked a little worrisome. "Hope the little guy's okay. If it's the same Pikachu I'm thinking of, then by tomorrow morning he'll probably be shocking Ash with a fresh thunder shock," Naruto commented with a straight face. The fact he actually said that with clear confidence was a little unnerving. Kurama merely snickered, knowing full well that was definitely how the rodent would react once awake. "Okay?" Jenny said uneasily. Clearing her throat, "I'd offer a lift like I did your brother," but her gaze went towards the burnt bicycle held behind Naruto's back. "I don't have room for what you're carrying." "Do I even want to know?" Misty growled and Naruto's face darkened. "No." They both simultaneously said, while Officer Jenny just sweat-dropped at seeing the angry teens. Break. Location: Viridian City, Pokémon Center, lobby. Time skip. Samuel Oak hummed as he rubbed his chin. He was just told of Ash's experience firsthand from the boy himself, and to say the least, he was both disappointed but surprised. Disappointed because Pikachu was truly a troubling little Pokémon for a new trainer to handle, but surprised since that same troubling Pikachu took it upon himself to protect Ash from the Spearow flock. Oh, he knew about that flock. They had been causing nothing but trouble for a long time around Pallet Town. Never once coming into the town itself, of course, but once you stepped out, you had to watch where you stepped, or else risk running into them. But it was at the end of Ash's explanation that made him question the boy's story. He was just told that the young trainer awoke to the new day, and had seen a large majestic Pokémon flying over the rainbow. Ash even pointed to a nearby painting, and said that it looked just like the one tribal image of the bird Pokémon Ash was speaking about. But such a thing could not be. "Ash, I'm telling you, it must have been another Pokémon. It is impossible to be that specific one. Nobody has ever seen it, and it's considered beyond legendary in its own standards." Oak argued, but the boy was adamant about what he saw. He sighed tiredly. "Look, just try to do your best from now on, alright? Learn from this experience, and hopefully since Pikachu chose to protect you, you will have an easier time while on your journey." It was Ash's turn to sigh, but one of resignation with a hint of hesitation. "Alright, Professor, I'll try." Oak smiled at the boy. "Very good, my boy. Now, I believe you owe your mother a call, don't you?" Ash winced, and the gray-haired professor saw it clearly. "I know you might be worried about how she will react, but she has a right to know you are okay. If you want, just don't mention the Spearow flock incident, or that Pikachu is being treated in the Pokémon Center." "I guess you're right, Professor." Ash wasn't looking forwards to the inevitable call to his own mother, and with good reason too. "I'm glad you think so, Ash." Professor Oak nodded happily, but paused as a thought occurred to him. "You mentioned how you temporarily escaped the Spearow flock by jumping over a waterfall, which I might add was completely reckless of you, Ash. But you never told me what happened to Naruto, and why he isn't with you now." You see, funny thing about that," Ash stammered, chuckling nervously as he rubbed the back of his head, a trait he had picked up from his brother years ago. "Yes, funny," a male voice deadpanned behind the black-haired teen, accompanied by a hand that collapsed onto Ash's right shoulder. The hand tightened ever so slightly as the boy under it tensed almost immediately when the voice spoke. Naruto's head moved past Ash's, as the blonde looked towards the screen. "Nice to see you again, old man. I hate to cut things short, but we need to have a chat with my dear little brother here." Ash's worry left for a second, replaced with confusion. "We?" A feminine hand found its way onto Ash's left shoulder, and a familiar orange-haired, spiked girl's head leaned over the shoulder, as she gave an overly sweet smile. "Hello, Ash, so glad to see you again. How's my bike?" Ash's worry returned double time, and his face whitened upon recognizing the girl. Oh crap. As this was going on, Oak was merely smiling in amusement. Ash might have forgotten about the bicycle part of the story, but the elderly man hadn't. "It seems you'll have your hands busy for a while, Ash. Good luck with that." Oak smiled as the boy in question sent a pleading look towards the professor. Looking at Naruto, "And Naruto, glad to see you survived your first day. despite your brother's actions. I hope to hear your side of the story, as Ash had told his not that long ago. His cheery expression suddenly went into a mock frown. I also hope you at least caught a Pokémon. I made the mistake of betting against Gary, saying that Ash would have caught at least one before he made it to Viridian City. He sighed disappointingly, no such luck. Almost as if knowing she'd be needed, an excited Yip responded by the blonde's feet. Naruto's face flinched as Ash and Oak looked down at the noise, or tried to in Professor Oak's case. Knowing when he was caught, Naruto reached down and brought the little brown fluff ball up to be viewed. I was sort of coerced into capturing her. Naruto deadpanned, while Eevee yipped happily, her brown fluffy tail going on overdrive as it wagged excitedly at seeing some new faces. An Eevee, you caught an Eevee! Ash gaped. Even he knew how rare such a find was, especially around Pallet Town, or even in between Pallet and Viridian. He wasn't even sure where Eevees were usually found, all he knew was how rare even having one was. Naruto ignored Ash and looked at the pleased-looking professor. Oh, old man, I wanted to know something. That sticker label you put on Kurama's ball, there a place I can get them? He asked. Ah, I see. You're going to organize your poke balls using them, am I correct? The man ventured to guess. Seeing the blonde nod, he smiled. Well then, you're in luck. I bought that sticker in a package set, and the package I got from mail order. Just head to any local poke mart, and they should sell them. If they don't have any in stock, you can simply order it. Naruto nodded with a smile. Thanks, old man. He winced as Misty elbowed him on the side, and gave him a pointed look. Oh right, looking back at the now curious man. Old man, I'll need to talk to you in private soon. I found something this morning, or more like it came to me, but either way, I need to speak to you. When's a good time to contact you? Oak merely raised a curious brow. I see. Hope it's nothing serious. Very well, I'll be completely free tomorrow afternoon. I'm currently busy with some late work, but was interrupted with Ash's call. Not that I mind, it's always a pleasure to get away from paperwork. The professor shuddered slightly, but anyways. Call me tomorrow around noon, is that alright with you, my boy? Noon tomorrow, Naruto nodded. Sounds good, old man. Very good. The chime of the doorbell over the screen interrupted their conversation. Oak's eyes widened, startled yet happy. Oh, my pizza order is here. I'm sorry to cut things short, but my anchovies are calling. I'll be looking forward in hearing more of your adventures at a later date, boys. Ash, Naruto, take care of yourselves, and your partners as well, you hear? The two brothers nodded. Oak turned his attention to Misty. As for you, Misty, right? It was very nice meeting you, and I hope we have the pleasure of meeting again. But knowing these two, that time might come sooner than we like. He joked lightly, but the excessive ringing of his doorbell was getting on everyone's nerves. I'm coming, hold your ponitis. Sorry, all pizza calls. The man gave them all smile before the screen went black. Ash's face relaxed as he sighed, glad that's over, only to tense up when two hands reacquainted themselves with his shoulders. I wouldn't relax so soon, Squirt. Naruto monotonously spoke, his face as neutral as carved stone. You and I need to talk about a certain waterfall jump you forced me to do, and the fact that you basically left me behind. And don't forget about me either. It was Misty's turn to give Ash an expression. Hers was one of a smile that promised nothing but pain in the coming future, and the boy did not like it one bit. You stole, and then fried my bike. You need to take responsibility, Ash Ketchum. She tilted her head, her smile growing, and showing all her teeth in a creepy smile one would see in a horror film. Ash looked between his brother and Misty, cursing before he was lifted off his chair, and dragged away to have a long overdue talk. Kurama was yipping in laughter, following behind them as he watched the squirming and flailing black-haired teen, while Eevee trotted behind as well, but was utterly confused about what was happening. Break. As the reunion of brothers and company ensued within the Pokémon Center, high above the city of Viridian City, a balloon shaped to look like the scratched cat Pokémon, Meowth, could be seen floating amongst the shadows of the night sky. A pair of gloved hands was holding onto a wanted poster. On the poster, two images could be seen, one of a short, lavender-haired man, and the other of a long, stylized magenta-haired woman. The two photo-captured people were apparently posing dramatically in front of the camera, and had their faces hidden in shadows. They were also wearing matching uniforms, base white in color, with a single large red R stitched on their fronts, and long elbow-length black gloves. A wanted poster? A voice, clearly feminine, spoke with clear amusement, having seen what the poster held, and whom they held. How flattering. Flattering? A male voice questioned with clear disbelief. By the tone he was using, the owner was clearly not happy, and was upset with the poster he was currently still holding. This picture makes me look terrible. Then you should be happy the photographer captured the real you. The woman responded back, amusement still in her voice as she looked towards her male companion with clear blue eyes. The woman was the same one shown on the wanted poster. We'll show these bumpkins. Tossing the wanted poster away, the man was revealed to be the other photographed person on the poster. The people of Viridian City will be sorry they ever saw this face, the man stated, holding a lavender rose under his nose, his green eyes gleaming over the city below them. A pair of blue, narrow pupil eyes opened. We're all sorry to see your face, stay focused. We're here to capture rare and unusual Pokémon, don't forget. The squeaky voice, clearly a male's, spoke to the pair. As moonlight shined down upon the balloon, it revealed the owner's voice to belong to a Meowth, a talking Meowth at that. Absolutely, the long, magenta-haired woman agreed. The short lavender-haired man nodded, still holding the rose in his hand, but of course. Turning around to see over the balloon's basket the three were in, Meowth looked over the city with a fanged grin. And just remember, I'm the top cat. The trio of thieves shared a laugh together, their balloon floating silently high above the city as it made its way towards the Viridian City Pokémon Center. Naruto, Kurama, Misty, and their newest addition, Eevee, has finally arrived at Viridian City. Having found and reunited with his little brother, will Ash survive his talk with the upset human pair? What of this mysterious bird Pokémon Ash spoke to Professor Oak about? Or the private talk Naruto needs to speak with the famous Pokémon researcher? And what of the three criminals heading towards the Viridian City Pokémon Center, where our group of teens were currently at? Find out next time in Naruto, the Aura Shinobi, Pokémon Emergency. Chapter 4 End. Chapter 5 Pokémon Emergency. Last time on Naruto, the Aura Shinobi. Turning around to see over the balloon's basket the three were in, Meowth looked over the city with a fanged grin. And just remember, I'm the top cat. The trio of thieves shared a laugh together, their balloon floating silently high above the city as it made its way towards the Viridian City Pokémon Center. Location: Viridian City, Pokémon Center. As the night rolled in over the quiet city of Viridian, a trio of teens were currently seated within the lobby of the local Pokémon Center. Two of whom were discussing about the third. The topic of their discussion, one Ash Ketchum of Pallet Town. Wait, Misty held up her hands, face in clear disbelief as she stared at Naruto. Having taken his brother, with Naruto's help, to sit at the center's lobby to talk, she had listened to the blonde's own tales of misfortune under Ash's plan when escaping the Spearow flock. To put it bluntly, it was incredibly stupid, yet shockingly effective. You're saying that he, Misty pointed at the sitting, nervously shifting Ash, pushed you off a cliff, down a waterfall, and into a raging river where you were nearly eaten by Gyarados? A large, blue-scaled, serpent-like, fawn-filled, angry-eyed glaring Gyarados. Am I hearing this right? Naruto and Kurama nodded their heads together, while Eevee, who was content with her spot on Naruto's lap, merely tilted her head as she merely listened. Misty stared. She looked towards Ash, stared a little at him, and then slapped him across the back of his head. Ignoring the yelp that escaped from the black-haired brother's mouth, Misty raised an accusing finger at him. What were you thinking when you did that? When does he ever think to begin with? Kurama's commentary unheard, yet bringing a little joy and humor to the otherwise sadistic Vulpix Pokémon. Watching with glee as his trainer's brother was getting scolded by the orange-haired Tombo. Well, this looks familiar, he thought with a hint of nostalgias. An old memory surfacing to his thoughts, one that involved a red-headed tomboy, and a blonde-haired dunce, in a very similar situation as Misty and Ash were currently in. Naruto merely rolled his eyes, a smirk on his face, as he leaned back on the cushioned couch he sat on, fully enjoying watching his little brother getting scolded by Misty. It wasn't every day he gets to enjoy a free show like this. Not to say he enjoys watching his little brother getting scolded all the time, but he finds it humorous how Ash kept trying to argue his case against the female gender. First rule Naruto learned years ago, one of many of life's little lessons: never argue with a woman, they are always right. Just accept it, and it'll be less painful. His mother had never been so happy in her life when she heard Naruto say those words. Ding dong. The bell-like tone interrupted the teen's moment. Looking towards the sound, Ash was the only one to react instantly as he jumped off the sofa they were sitting on. It only took Naruto and Misty a few seconds before realizing what it was, and was soon joining Ash in his race towards the emergency room. Kurama chose to walk instead, while Eevee was carried in Naruto's arms. A gurney was the first thing to exit the emergency room. On it was Ash's Pikachu sleeping peacefully, though bandaged quite heavily. Pushing the gurney were the two responsible for the Pikachu's now stable condition, the lovely Nurse Joy of Viridian City, and her assistant, who also happened to be a Pokémon, Chansey, the egg Pokémon. Nurse Joy, as she is commonly called, was a modest-looking woman, wearing a white and pink nurse outfit. She had fair skin, shining blue eyes, and dark pink-styled curly hair with a good portion of it being done up in twin loops behind her head. Rushing up to the gurney, Ash was the first to arrive, Pikachu. Holding onto the railings, the black-haired trainer was relieved to see his only partner resting well. Coughing lightly, getting the three teens' attentions onto her, Nurse Joy flicked through some papers on a clipboard she had in her hands. Your Pikachu suffered extensive damage, both externally and internally. Externally being the physical damage he had endured, while internally apparently came from an outside source of electricity. Normally, such a thing shouldn't have been a problem for an electric Pokémon, but due to your Pikachu's external injuries, it was quite a risky move. Here she gave Ash a stern look. I should report you directly to Officer Jenny, and have your license revoked for such mistreatment of a Pokémon. Ash winced, but it was his brother that came to his rescue. We were being chased by an angry flock of Spearows, between here and Pallet Town. Before that though, Pikachu showed no interest when it came to listening to Ash, so if Pikachu did use any electrical attacks, it was done by his own choice and action. Though after what happened Naruto looked at the sleeping Pikachu, I think he'll start listening now, especially since he did save my brother. Nurse Joy hummed thoughtfully. It seems I misjudged you. For a Pokémon to go to such lengths to defend you, and against an angry flock of Spearows from all things, shows a strong bond between a trainer and their Pokémon. I apologize. She gave a short bow to Ash, as the boy scratched his head nervously at the gesture. Wanting to get back to the main topic at hand, Misty chose to voice out next. Excuse me, is Pikachu going to be okay? Standing straight from her short bow, Nurse Joy gave a reassuring smile. After a good night's rest, he should be a-okay. We treated all the more serious of injuries, and as for the internal, Pikachu's own systems are fixing them up. The three teens sighed in relief. Ash looked over his partner once more, his face one of relief but with guilt. That's good to hear. For a moment, I was almost afraid that he couldn't finish what he was about to say. The mere thought alone left him tongue-tied. Holding his Eevee with one hand, Naruto placed his other on Ash's shoulder. Live and learn, little bro, especially at times like this. Whenever I messed up badly before, even at Old Man Oak's ranch, he'd always say to me, take your mistakes and learn from them. Learn so that you can better not only yourself, but others affected by you. Ash looked at his brother confused. What does that mean? It means everyone's attention went to Misty, that whatever mistakes you make in life, if you learn from them, they will not only improve you as a person, but also those affected by your choices and actions. And if you learn from this mistake, it was Nurse Joy's turn to speak out. It will not only make you a better trainer, but a better partner for your Pikachu to depend on, she explained further. For her, it was quite a surprise to hear a child, just starting out his teen years, to speak such words. Ash had listened to what the others had said, and took a long good look at his sleeping Pikachu. A hint of a smile broke through his guilt-ridden face. Guess I learned not to throw anything at those Spearows, even when your partner wants to be disobedient. He joked, as Naruto sighed while Misty face-palmed. Nurse Joy though giggled at the lesson learned. Looking at a nearby clock on the wall, Nurse Joy gave a small gasp as she noticed that it was close to midnight. Oh my. It's late, and you kids need a room for the night. Turning to the Pokémon by her side, Chansey, I want you to take Pikachu to the recovery wing for the night. The large egg-shaped Pokémon gave a salute to her superior. Yes, ma'am. Facing the trio of teens again, if you three will follow me, we'll find you some rooms for the night, and the sound of glass breaking interrupted Nurse Joy, and the group of 4 humans and 3 Pokémon looked up to see the ceiling skylight having been smashed open by 2 falling poke balls. As the 2 poke balls touched the ground, they opened to release the Pokémon within. The lights that escaped quickly condensed, taking shape. One was revealed to be the poison gas Pokémon, known as Coughing, while the other was the snake Pokémon, known as Ekans. Before anyone could say or do anything, the Coughing used smokescreen, expelling a putrid foul-smelling, greenish fog from within its body. Everyone had to cover their noses and mouths at the smell. Naruto, however, kept one hand wrapped around Kurama's mouth, while Eevee buried her muzzle into Naruto's jacket. He knew of the Coughing species, and especially their gases. Besides their putrid stench, they were also highly flammable and explosive. One spark from Kurama's fire would set the whole thing off. Coughing heavily, Ash tried peering through the fog around them. What's going on? Don't be frightened, little boy, a female's voice spoke out from within the fog. The voice sounded taunting, yet held a tone of self-superiority. It was almost as if whoever this person was, believed to be above others. Allow us to introduce ourselves, a male voice spoke next. This one sounded calmer, yet held a tone of amusement that made the group of 4 believe he saw this entire thing as entertaining. As the fog thinned, they were greeted to the sight of a long-haired magenta woman, clad in a white uniform with a black undershirt, a pair of black gloves that stopped on her upper arms, and a large red, R stitched in the center of her uniform, to protect the world from devastation. To unite all people within our nation, the woman's partner was an equally tall man with short lavender hair. He was dressed similarly to the woman, though obviously for a male, with his gloves reaching just below his elbow. He was also carrying with him a single red rose. To denounce the evils of truth and love. To extend our reach to the stars above. Raising her hand on level with her head, almost as if presenting herself to lower people, the woman continued their introduction routine. Jesse. Smirking, the man gave a quick small sniff of his rose, and then at least to him, dashing smile towards their spectators. James. Team Rocket, blast off at the speed of light. Jessie gave a pose, her icons coming up behind her to join in. Coiling itself near the woman's legs, it gave a glare towards the group. James gave his own pose as well, his coughing moving in from behind, yet the Pokémon's face remained the same: surrender now or prepare to fight. From the broken skylight, a Meowth, known as the Cat Scratch Pokémon, dropped down as it made its entrance. Flipping from the impressive height, while also showcasing its natural acrobatic skills, it landed feet first without even a grunt between the two humans and their Pokémon. Meowth, that's right. The now identified male Pokémon finished, in a somewhat squeaky voice. Nobody moved, and merely stared in disbelief at what they had just witnessed. Did that Meowth just speak? Kurama looked at the Meowth for a moment, slightly surprised, and a little jealous at seeing an actual speaking Pokémon. He knew of psychic types being able to speak and communicate telepathically, but had never heard nor seen an actual talking Pokémon. Naruto slowly looked at Misty, who, like him, wore a stunned and stupefied expression. Please tell me they didn't just sing to us. He wasn't begging or anything, but after seeing something like that, he didn't quite know how to respond. Nurse Joy took a step forward, putting herself between the teens and the intruders. You are not welcomed here. Leave now before I call the police. She warned them, knowing full well these were the criminals that Officer Jenny had been hunting down for days on end. But despite her threat, she also knew very well these thieves were not going to take her words seriously. And unfortunately, Nurse Joy was right in her assumptions, as Jessie gave a cocky smirk towards the pink-haired nurse. Well, the magenta-haired woman gave Nurse Joy a look over. Seems we have a brave one here, James. She looked to her companion. Smirking, James gave a small laugh. Indeed it does, Jessie. Such a shame, wouldn't you agree? The man replied to his partner, either one having lost the tone of amusement in their voices. Seeing no progress happening, Meowth frowned and turned to his two human partners. Hey! Remember why we're here? For jumping around to face the front once more, he gave a clawed point towards the group of teens and nurse. We want all of your rare Pokémon, so hand 'em over. Kurama took up an offensive stance, giving the Meowth a fierce growl as his pupils slitted. Naruto had narrowed his eyes at the pair of thieves and their Pokémon, along with Misty and Nurse Joy, while he held on to Eevee tighter. Ash, however, moved to stand between them and Pikachu, obscuring the thieves' view of his injured Pokémon. You're not getting Pikachu. Pikachu? Jessie lost her amusement, replacing it with actual confusion. It only lasted a second though, as she gave a taunting scoff. We're not interested in your precious electric rat. We seek only rare and valuable Pokémon. James commented with a dismissive wave. Seeing an opportunity, Nurse Joy interjected, You're wasting your time then. This is a center for weak and injured Pokémon. You won't find any such Pokémon here. She was grasping straws up to this point, but she had to find a way to either stall for time before Officer Jenny arrived, thanks to the Window's silent alarm system, or get the teens away from before anything happened to them. Jessie had a small frown. Well, that may be so, she admitted before she smirked, but I wouldn't be all that surprised if we found a few little Pokémon gems among the junk. It was at this point that Meowth finally took notice of the growling Pokémon. Having sensitive ears, he had picked up the low menacing growl before, but had put it aside for the time being. It was only now that he decided to see where it was coming from, and was surprised to see it coming from a golden-furred Vulpix. Jessie, James getting the human pair's attention, Meowth pointed towards Kurama. Check out the Pokémon. The two Pokémon thieves looked, and were surprised as well at seeing Kurama. Jessie was positively giddy when her eyes settled upon the golden-furred Vulpix. Oh my, how wonderful! Look at that precious-looking Vulpix, and such a fine-colored fur too. James hummed, scratching his chin in thought. I remember seeing something like this before, he admitted, gaining the attention of everybody in the room. Removing his hand from his chin, he lifted a finger as if to give a lecture. Pokémon fans call this unique coloration of Pokémon species as shiny Pokémon. From what I heard, they are extremely rare and hard to find. A smile blossomed upon his face, one that was mimicked by Jessie and Meowth. clapping her hands together. Extremely rare, you say? Jessie cooed in delight, her eyes zeroing in on Kurama. How positively wonderful. Seeing how the long-haired woman was looking at him made even a sadist like Kurama shiver. Unlook! Meowth's voice shouted out. When everyone looked at the cat Pokémon again, they saw him pointing towards the trembling Eevee in Naruto's arms. The twerp's got an Eevee as well. We hit the jackpot. The small Pokémon celebrated. Naruto surprised a few people, and Pokémon, when he himself gave a growl towards the talking Pokémon. No way are you getting either of my Pokémon. You three are starting to bug me. Jessie smirked as she gave a taunting laugh. Isn't that cute? She looked at James. The boys bugged. James looked back at Jessie, just as amused as she was. Giving a fanged grin, Meowth extended his claws. Then let's squash him. James extended his arm, coughing, attack. Without hesitation, the poisonous Pokémon launched itself towards the group, releasing its toxic gas as it did so. It left a trail behind it that soon began expanding around the Pokémon Center's lobby. Not one to be left behind, Jessie copied James, and extended her arm out as she commanded her own Pokémon. Ekans, go. Like a snake would pounce on its prey, Ekans launched itself from its coiled position, flying through the air with its fanged mouth open, ready to bite onto anything it could set its teeth into. Move! Misty shouted, making the group dodge as Ekans flew past them and crashed into the computer that was on the reception desk. The Pokémon was unharmed, its jaws clamping and smashing its way through the machine with little effort, and completely unaffected by the electrical power sparking from the cables. Without further encouragement, Naruto, Ash, Misty, Nurse Joy and their Pokémon all ran from the lobby, making their way further into the Pokémon Center to escape. Chansey and Nurse Joy were the ones pushing the gurney that still held Ash's Pikachu, while Ash and Misty took the front and Naruto the back. Grabbing his partner with his free hand, Naruto faced the small Pokémon towards the poisonous fog that had shrouded the lobby. Now that they were out of the danger zone, he was going to take full advantage of that. Kurama, light that fog with ember now. Opening his jaw, Kurama launched a volley of fireballs towards the highly combustible gas. Rounding a corner, the group was lucky to avoid the resulting explosion that came from the flammable gas as it was ignited. Rushing up to the others, Naruto glanced behind him. Hope that bought us some time. No way a trainer with a coughing would fall for an attack like that. He would soon learn not to give such high expectations for this particular trio from Team Rocket. Break. Back with our team of thieves and their Pokémon partners, we find them all sprawled out on the ground, covered in burns with trails of smoke coming off their bodies. Coughing being the more severe one injured, since the gas had originated from his body, so he took the brunt of the explosion first. Jessie was the first to push herself up, her hair frizzed up and smoking, and an angry scowl marring her face. That little brat. How dare he do that to us? Freezing for a moment, her hands shot up to her hair. She let out a shriek of horror upon finding how her hair turned out in that explosion. My hair! My precious hair! That's it, that twerp is dead! She shouted in feminine fury. Let it be known, never mess with a woman's hairdo. It'll be less painful in the long run. James took his time to sit up straight, his head pounded and ears ringing still. That blonde kid got us good. Using my coughing's own gas against us, brilliant really. He praised. A criminal thief he may be, but even he had to acknowledge a well-thought-out strategy and surprise attack like that. Meowth jumped onto his feet, fangs showing as he growled at James, down be praising the twerp, you knucklehead. We need a fin where day went and soon. Meowth might not have known about the silent alarm, but even he knew an explosion like that must have alerted someone in the nearby houses and buildings. Sooner or later, the police were going to arrive, and they had to move quickly. Ekans and Coughing had taken their time to recover, but now waited besides their respective trainers, as both trainers' expressions turned serious. Right. Standing up, Team Rocket took off into the blackened and mildly destroyed hallways, following the trail of their prizes and prey. Break. Naruto was the last to enter the darkened room they had entered to hide, locking the sliding doors behind him. He turned to see how the others were doing. Besides the obvious rush they had running away from those thieves, he noticed that no one was seriously harmed in the attack and explosion. Letting Kurama down on the floor, he held the shaking Eevee with both arms securely, trying to quell the scared infant Pokémon. This was why he wasn't so enthusiastic about taking the young Eevee in. Naruto took the time to inspect the room. It was very clean, and filled with machines he wasn't quite sure of their purpose. But considering they were in a Pokémon Center, he had to guess the machines were specifically built for some medical purpose. Along the walls, shelves were lined up, all filled to the brim with Pokeballs. Where are we exactly? Naruto directed the question to Nurse Joy. Taking a quick look around to see if anything was damaged, she answered Naruto, "We're currently in the Pokémon storage and transport wing." She gave Naruto a relieved smile. "We should be safe for the time being." As if the universe was against them, the lights flickered out. Now in the dark, Misty gave a startled gasp. "Hey, the lights!" She had jumped in surprise, accidentally stepping on Ash's foot, and causing the boy to yelp in pain. "Ah! Sorry! They must have cut the power." Nurse Joy muttered, "But if anyone could see, they'd see the smile she had on her face. But we have our own Pika power." Naruto raised a brow, though it was unseen to others. "Pika what now?" The sound of electricity started to hum in the air. The lights flickered on before they became steady, and remained on. The constant chanting of "Pika Pika, choo choo," drew their attention towards the literal Pikachu generator that served as the Viridian city's backup power source. It was basically a group of Pikachus running on a rotating treadmill, letting their gathered electricity to build up and release into the electrical conductors above them, thus collecting and distributing the electrical power they released throughout the Pokémon Center. Naruto and Kurama's sweat dropped upon seeing the backup generator. "You have got to be kidding me." The blonde teen muttered in disbelief, something that was shared with his partner. Nurse Joy gave a sly smile towards the blonde. "They may be small, but these little guys pack quite the power," she reassured. It was a little unorthodox, but it did the job, plus it was cost efficient. Ash looked both shocked and a little worried at seeing so many of the Pikachu species together in one group. Despite accepting his Pikachu due to being saved by the little electric mouse, he was still a bit jumpy. Misty, however, had a similar reaction to when Jessie saw Kurama, and immediately went over to look at the hard-working Pika group. "Wow, look at all the Pikachus. A crisis situation has arisen. Initiation emergency Pokeball transport sequence." Hearing the computerized voice, Nurse Joy moved towards a nearby computer that was next to a large machine. This machine happened to be the Pokémon Center's Pokeball transport unit, and as Nurse Joy began operating the systems, the machine hummed to life. A large mechanized arm began gathering and depositing the shelved Pokeballs into the machine for transport. Nurse Joy's Chansey was also helping, gathering whatever Pokeballs happened to be missed by the mechanical arm. "This is the Viridian City Pokémon Center. We have an emergency situation, transporting Pokeballs immediately." Nurse Joy spoke, clearly speaking towards the computer. "This is the Pewter City Pokémon Center. Transport active, ready to receive Pokeballs." A voice similar to Nurse Joy's, but computerized, responded back. As each of the Pokeballs went in the transport unit, it was converted into energy, and then transported to safety to the next city. Guys?" Naruto and Ash looked towards Misty. She was pointing towards the entrance to the room they were in. Looking at the locked door, the two brothers swore as a familiar toxic gas was seeping in through the small spaces the door had. Passing Eevee to Misty to hold onto, Naruto took a step forward with Kurama at the ready. "You two stay back. Kurama and I will handle things. Keep Eevee safe for me, okay? Don't let them get her, no matter what." The girl nodded, carefully holding on to the shivering Eevee in her arms. Eevee was still just an infant Pokémon, and had no real experience in these kinds of situations yet. Coughing. The poison gas Pokémon had busted its way into the room, completely destroying the door. It smashed along the walls and sent the still stored Pokeballs to the floor. "Kurama, quick attack, let's go!" Kurama launched himself with a run, leaving behind him a trail of white light. Coughing didn't even have time to blink before it was struck dead on. It was sent back out the door. Moving back, Kurama narrowly avoided the Ekans that had made its next appearance into the room. It had used Bite to try and bring the golden-furred Vulpix down, only to crash headfirst to the floor. Nowhere to run, the voice of Jessie filtered in, as the Team Rocket member stepped into the room with a smirk, her Ekans slithering back in front of the magenta-haired woman, ready and waiting for its next command. And nowhere to hide, James spoke next, stepping in line with his criminal partner. Beside the man hovered his Coughing, who had a small mark where it struck by the golden-furred Kurama. Naruto gritted his teeth. What will it take to get rid of these guys? Feeling his frustrations getting the better of him, he took a deep breath, held it in, and then exhaled slowly. As Kurama got ready for another fight, Naruto looked behind him. "Guys, when I say go, I want you to get out of this room as fast as you can, and out of the center, understand?" Ash blinked, surprised by his brother's words. "What are you planning, Naruto?" Naruto smirked. "Remember those lessons Mum took me to for years?" A look of comprehension came upon Ash's face. "Just do as I say, and get everyone out of here when I say the word." Jessie and James had clearly heard the blonde-haired trainer's words, their smirks leaving their faces and replaced by contemplation. It was Meowth though that broke their train of thought. "Enough talkin'. Surrender your Pokémon now, less things G ugly. To emphasize on his words, he extended his claws out of his paws and poised ready to pounce. Ugly, eh? Alright then, Kurama, quick attack, double time! Naruto shouted. Not needing to be told twice, Kurama launched himself once more towards Team Rocket, his target this time being Meowth. What surprised everyone though, except for Ash, was when Naruto joined the run, as the team went straight towards James and Jesse. Guys, go now! Stunned at the actions of the blonde-haired human, Meowth had lowered his guard for just a moment, which Kurama took full advantage. Striking the cat Pokémon, he sent the feline right out the door. Without being told, Kurama changed course towards Ekans, resulting in the same thing happening to the snake Pokémon. This only left Coughing to the mercy of Kurama once again. Naruto ran up towards Jesse, who was caught off guard, as he performed a low sweep kick, making the female rocket member drop to the floor. Without missing a beat, Naruto moved past James' feeble attempts of a defense, grabbed the male rocket member by the arm, tossing the man over his shoulder, and off to the side of the room. Ash moved to take Pikachu's gurney, while Nurse Joy, having recovered from her stunned stupor, grabbed onto Misty's arm, guiding the orange-haired girl out the room as they followed Ash. Jessie, having recovered from the unexpected assault, stood to follow. Hey, get back here! She was only able to take one step forward before she froze when Naruto stood at the doorway. You want to follow them? Shifting his weight, Naruto lowered his knees a bit more, his arms spreading apart as he held his left by his side, while his right stayed in front. He had shifted into a fighting stance. You'll have to get through me first. Kurama had joined in the picture as well, his front crouched to the floor, teeth and fangs bared as he growled at the rocket duo, the flames in his throat just itching to be released at the thieves. Jesse and James shared an uneasy look. This was the first time for them that anyone actually stood to fight, instead of running. Nobody noticed that 3 specific Pokémon were missing in the picture. Break. Having escaped Team Rocket by the actions of Naruto, Ash was currently leading Misty and Nurse Joy towards the lobby, where the Pokémon Center entrance was at. Naruto had given them all a chance to escape, and he wasn't about to let that go. He wasn't worried for his brother though. For years, Naruto showed a surprising skill in martial arts, something their mother took notice almost immediately, and had Naruto take a self-defense class to nurture it. She tried having Ash take the same course, but he wasn't as skilled as his brother was. Misty, who had yet to release her grip around the now calm Eevee in her arms, was now running up beside Ash, her face in worry. Hey Ash, are you sure we should have left Naruto back there? Naruto can handle himself. Ash reassured her. Our mom took him to a self-defense class some years back. By the time he finished the course last year, he was in the top 5 students. He's not an expert or master though, but his teacher said that Naruto was a born naturalist in martial arts. I hope he'll be okay though, Nurse Joy said. In her arms she carried numerous shrunken poke balls, all of which she had gathered when Coughing had destroyed the shelves. Those 2 were from an evil organization called Team Rocket, and they're quite notorious throughout the Kanto region. I'm just worried he might get hurt because of us, she explained. You should be more worried about yourselves, den de twerp right now. Ash had to swerve the gurney to the side, as Meowth, Ekans and Coughing made an appearance just between them and the center's entrance, and effectively blocking them from their escape. Rising up a clawed paw, Meowth took a step towards the startled group of humans. Now, hon over your Pokémon, and nobody gets hurt. Misty and Nurse Joy had stopped as soon as the trio of Pokémon appeared, while Ash lost control of the gurney slightly. Given that he was running, he swerved to the side to avoid the trio of Pokémon. He crashed it against the burnt bicycle of Misty's that had been left there at the lobby. As the gurney crashed against the bicycle, the slumbering Pikachu twitched at the sudden noise and shake. A bleary brown eye fluttered open, as Pikachu awoke from his rest. Pika? The infamous Team Rocket has made an appearance. How will Naruto and the rest handle the situation they now find themselves in? Naruto, having taken matters into his own hands, has stopped Jesse and James from following his little brother and friends. But they are now cornered by the talking Meowth, along with Jesse's Ekans and James Coughing. How will they get out of this? And what will happen now that Pikachu's finally awakened? Find out next time in Naruto, the Aura Shinobi, New Starts and Farewells. Chapter 5 End. What if Naruto is Ash's brother Pokemon? End here and thanks for watching my video till the end.